asking what it wants to know. I'm shaking now, it calls out my name. Cloaked and haunting me, cold hand touching me, fear overwhelming me, tapping at my window. I can't bear to open my eyes. A breath on my neck, floating apparitions everywhere. Go to sleep with the light on. I wake up paralyzed.
Welcome, folks, to Paranormal Roundtable. I'm your host, Josh Turner, and this is Halloween. And there's like a million people doing shows tonight. So we are trying to get back on track, get back on the ball. And so we're here tonight. And we're doing what everybody else is doing, which is doing a show. Apparently, like all of my colleagues, I don't really have competitors because I don't believe in that. But they consider themselves competitors. I don't. But they're all doing shows. Everybody's doing a show. So I am under the weather. I am not feeling good at all.
Yeah, you got the same thing that we got.
I finally got it. I was stressed the hell out. And I lost
Let me fix that.
part of my notes, not all of them, but I had an amazing Dogman story. And I had the Cliff Notes, and I did not send them to the right place. So I know the gist of the story, but I don't know the whole system. So that's another thing, and that just goes with not feeling good today. Not just feeling like
Well, maybe while telling out some of the other encounters, it'll come to you.
I feel like Dogman crap today.
Sometimes stuff just like hits you out of the blue, and you're like, "Oh,
Yeah, maybe
that's
I'll
what
have
that was."
something. Let's change the banner here. Let's see. Go to the comments. Someone up here saying they don't like Dr. Pepper. I love Dr. Pepper. I don't drink it. I can't drink it. I don't drink it, but it's delicious.
When it's made with cane sugar, it's great.
Yeah. So we have a. Well, let me change this real quick. I'm going to do something. Oh, okay. Paul Pachura, however you say your name, says keep it short if you don't feel well. Well, I would, but it is Halloween, and I don't think that we can, because we have some stories to talk about, but I just can't. I don't remember that that particular Dogman story was very Halloweeny. Here's my shirt, Creature from the Black Lagoon. So I'm going to bring you on. There's Anthony. So we got all these people that are doing shows right now. So hopefully once those start to wind down, the people will show up and we can get some people in here. But we have our own audience that kind of shows up. They know what to do. Somebody asked me the other day, they're like, aren't you worried about, they named a few other people. They're like, they're catching up to you. I'm like, really? I haven't looked. I'm not.
Oh,
don't care.
there's enough for everyone. Tony.
Yeah, I don't care who catches up to what. It doesn't. There is no competition. And some of those shows are completely different types of shows. You know, like they do a completely different thing.
Yeah.
Their shtick is not mine. So I don't really care. I don't even know some of those people they were naming, I don't know if we share the same audience. So here's a funny thing while we're waiting for people to show up. Some people have come forward and admitted that they cursed me. And a couple of them put it on Facebook. What's funny is that one of them did it at the same exact time as another. So which one is it? Whose curse worked? Or was it all of the above? Because we, apparently they cursed me, they cursed us, and they're like,
Well, get in line. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a bunch of people who've done a bunch of weird crap, try and curse us.
Yeah, it's so weird. Yeah, and so whenever the one guy, he's over there in England, and he's a bit of a fancy man, and he was today, or I guess posting something. Maybe it was yesterday. I don't know. Somebody had sent me a screenshot of his bull crap, and I'm like, oh, so he cursed me. He gave me gout. Wow. Congratulations, man. All this stuff. Go on, buddy. He's trying to
Why can't you people ever like come up with all this magic and hexes to cure your mental illness? How about that? Like abracadabra Zoloft or hocus pocus Prozac or
so they said they cursed Tony with that hair. Yeah, you do need to get a haircut per the rules of the job.
or
So
abracadabra make me
that will
normal.
be happening soon. We cannot just cut your hair. Cannot just go wherever you want because we get complaints. If it was up to me, I'd just sit there and I grow a beard down to my navel and just not do anything.
Like Father Time.
But I have to be able to present myself to clients.
You could grow one
You
of those
just
really
walk
cool
in looking
Viking
like
beards.
Tony to talk to a client. Holy shit! They would just be like,
yeah,
we don't want your business. We don't want you. So we can't send guards looking like.
Well, that's when you call us security to remove the homeless person from the.
They're like, there's a
office.
vagrant with one of your shirts on. Can you please have him? Please take him out of the building.
Oh my God! He robbed the security guard and took his clothes.
Where is your guard, sir? Where is this guy? Oh man. So besides the cursing and the whatever that's been going on, and everybody's so happy to take credit for it or whatever, I have to say this: if that was really the case, you did a piss poor job because I am fine. I was the last one to get sick in the whole house from everything that everybody else had.
Mm-hmm.
So I see you're like not wearing any jewelry. I feel overdressed. Nobody's wearing any bling but me. Wow.
I mean,
I
mine's
feel like I'm hanging out with poor people.
Mine's all packed up still. And it's in some box somewhere.
Wow. A lot of our stores are so creepy. Choose nice comment there, Jeremiah. That's funny because one of the people that gave us the story, his name was Jeremy. So that's why it kind of stuck out. From there, I thought it was him. So we are going to be doing some other stuff too. We have some stuff coming out. It's the Vampires of Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to look into this one. I got to say this. I got this a female friend of mine that's in this field to cross interview this guy. So she's going to do that. And so far, what I've talked to him, I believe he's legit. I mean, in a nutshell, what happened to the guy, it's crazy. Like he got held hostage on a drug deal. And he thinks the people that were holding him hostage, not all of them, but the ringleaders in particular were vampires. And he's got a lot of reasons why he thinks that. He doesn't articulate in particularly what he's got a really strong accent. Because he's from Mexico originally, but he lived in Mexico for a long time. And he moved back, and so he's kind of been back and forth. But he's got not dual center. What do you call it? A visa to work here.
Mm-hmm. A work visa.
Yeah, and he actually has a degree. He's not illegal, but he's doesn't want to live after this. What happened near the border? He was basically just held hostage. Now, if you go back to what happened back in I think it was the late 80s,
Mhm.
There was a guy, I don't know if anybody knows this. I mean, maybe people do, but his name is Mark Kilgore. He's a UT student. Have you heard of him?
That
Do you
name
know who I'm
sounds
talking about?
familiar.
No, I don't think I do.
No. Well, Mark Kilgore was a UT student, and he was taken, get this, by a Cuban national that was living in Mexico down near Matamoros. And I used to run around down there in the 90s. And I used to hang out at a particular club or whatever. But this guy, he was a bad guy, and he was practicing black magic. And now there's different stories. They say that he was practicing Santeria and all this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Black magic is black magic, dude.
Yeah,
And so
different names for it.
he ended up having this little group of people that he was the leader of, like a coven, and he was a brujo. And they murdered this guy. He went missing, during spring break. So everybody was looking for this guy. I remember when I was like, oh gosh, I was like 14 or something. And I remember everybody was looking for this dude, or maybe I was a little younger. I don't know. It was something like that. And so they had chopped him up and used his body parts. And some reports say that they were cannibalizing certain parts of the human body too. And there were other reports. Now, when I was hanging out down there, I'm not, here we go with this. I don't want to say like, oh, I'm an uber badass, don't mess with me. But I did handle myself pretty well. And I had somebody threaten me at this place called Gatos, El Gatos, which is like, it's a cat club.
Mm-hmm.
Like I say what I was doing there or why I was down there.
But this place was down in Mexico?
Down in Matamoros, yeah. And this guy told me, he goes, you don't know who you're messing with, and all this other nonsense, whatever crap. And of course, this was before like the cartel was really powerful, I mean, they were doing what they were doing, but they didn't really mess with you in Mexico as long as because they didn't want to be on the radar,
Yeah.
And so I was down there, and this one panzón, big heavy set dude, came up and started messing with one of my compadres, and so we got into it. We went outside, and I boxed his ears off, and then his friend decided to join in, and I boxed his ears off. And so they kind of went and came back with a truckload of dudes. And I had already bailed.
Yeah.
And then the next time I came, this one girl, she was like, that guy, he's a brujo. He's going to curse you. And he wants to take your eyes. Yeah. And it was for some kind of whatever, because, and supposedly what she was telling us, we were at this hotel down there. This is a true story. Like she told me, it was me and I think it was your stepdad might have been with us, Tony. I think there was like several of us. I know Roger was there. Roger, Alex's dad. And we were all down there. And my friend Big Rob, who was tough guy, was not to be messed with type guy. And my friend Mick, and Mick was from Brooklyn. Bad attitude, completely bad. New York, everything about New York. Yeah, beyond that though. Like he was the stereotype of why they are the way they are.
Brooklyn's obnoxious?
And he was so obnoxious. So we were there. We were hanging out. My brother was there. I think Willie was with us. I know he was. And so we were all down there hanging out. And we were at the hotel. And these girls proceeded to tell us, this isn't like supernatural or whatever, but that they would take people, who they thought weren't going to have any kind of ties to whatever, and they would snatch them up. And they would do ceremonies with them, and then they would process their bodies, and they would feed them to people at this one restaurant. And they told us this one place was called El Leon's. They said, do not go in there. Don't go to that taco stand because the pork is all human flesh. That's what they told us. And I was like, too late. I had 5 of them earlier. They were delicious. I was like, no, I didn't. I never went in there. I didn't went in there because it was a gangster hangout, and I was already, kind of been looked at kind of funny. I mean, I was hanging out in Laredo when I was given my walking papers by the federales and had to hang out in a football stadium for a little bit. We had like a 12-year-old kid and his dad, or I don't know, his dad didn't speak English, but the kid did. And the kid was like our guide.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like fast.
Yeah.
So he's like running away from, we're like, hey, like slow down. I mean, like I am a big dude, and I wasn't as big back then, but I was like, look, I got to swim across.
Yeah.
And so we ended up like wading across. Luckily, I didn't get stuck by needles or something that would give me HEP or HIV.
So you're technically an illegal alien.
I'm a mojado.
On paper, yeah.
I'm a mojado.
On paper somewhere, you're mojado.
Yeah, and so I came across, but it wasn't we got across, and then we were about a mile in, we were walking. And I had a friend that lived down there in that area, and I told him, I said, meet me here, blah, 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 before the checkpoint. And he came way late. And he was, as they say, baracho teresos.
Mhm.
He pulls up, he's like, hey, guys. And then I was like, I'm going to drive. He goes, no, man. Nobody's driving my Jeep. I said, get the F out of the passenger seat. We crammed into this thing, right? And then we're all wet. So we get to the checkpoint. What do you think happens? These guys walk up with these Belgian Malinois, and they're like, like, what's going on here? And the kid, Dennis, like, what am I doing wrong? I'm just wet. I've been for a swim. Like, why is there a syringe hanging out of your ear and you have a turd on your head? I don't know. I like to swim in the river. It is my prerogative as an American.
This is Mexico. I just went to the swimming pool. But, I mean, this is normal.
I drank the water. We all did. Explosive diarrhea. Montezuma got us good. No, but so these federales, I mean, the American Border Patrol people, they were just like, they let us through. They were just like, they thought, man, what do these do? Why are you wet?
Yeah.
And I don't remember, who was talking. It wasn't me. I think it was Roger. Roger was a good talker. And the next thing you know, I'm just like, God dang, man. So we left our friend's SUV down there. He never got it back. And like, you can't call GMC and be like, hey, man, our Suburban got, Chevy, our Suburban got jacked by a cartel. Can you just give me another one?
Yeah.
Do I still got to pay $500 a month? And
there's no insurance for that.
Yeah.
So does this count as robbery?
What were you doing down there? I'd rather not say. My father's in politics. So, what are you doing? You're like, you're gonna tell them what's going on? Like, what are you doing? So you have this craziness going on down there. And so I never went back to Laredo ever. Not even to Laredo. That was in Nuevo Laredo. I never went back to Laredo. When they introduced themselves through the federales as, hey, man, we're in charge now. Our guns are bigger than yours. You can leave. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
The card game that was going on was not that important. I was like, time to go. And luckily the people who were there, let me say hi to Jason. Hello, Jason. How you doing?
Hello.
Put the head.
Hello.
To hear what he's saying here. But so luckily a guy came, and he was a friend of ours, and he told us. He says, "Hey, man, the federales are coming to arrest you, and you're probably not going to leave." So we were out of there, man. We went out the back of this restaurant, bar, restaurant, whatever, and we never went back. But Mexico is a very dangerous place, especially if I haven't been there in years. Now, I know some people that live down there, and they're like, oh, yeah, I go all the time. Like, well, good for you. I go there to get medicine. I do this. I do that. I'm like, awesome. Great. I will never go back. I'm good. Not even on a cruise. Because you know what they're doing now? Like, even if you go down to, like Cancun.
Mm-hmm.
Used to, if you went to Cancun, you could go, because my cousin used to have a place there, like a resort, whatever, Beau's mother.
Mm-hmm. Like a timeshare?
Yeah, people could go down there, and it was nice. And so I went down there one time, and it was nice. We flew down there, but it was, now you can't leave the resorts. You have to stay.
Oh, yeah.
You can't go to the Mercado or anything else and do anything fun, because you'll get probably taken and decapitated and who knows what. I mean, I'm not joking. It's gotten really bad. So you can't do it.
God knows.
Yeah. So Jason, how are you doing on Halloween? Did your kids get a lot of candy or?
Yeah, well, the one I think did. I didn't check his load, but my youngest went in a full ghillie suit. And he only made it the first round, and he was like, "We're going back." I'm like, "Yeah, me too," because my head was pounding. Like, it was really windy today, so I'm like, I don't know. My sinuses have been affected, so I think his are too. So he was like, "I'm done.
Was it windy? Was it coming from the south? The wind?
Maybe.
Because we got hit what we call the Santa Ana winds. I mean, it was bad from the south yesterday.
Yeah,
I mean, it was brutal.
Trying to think if it was coming from the lake or coming from the south. I can't.
Yeah, because you're up there in Indiana, right?
Yeah, I'm right on Lake Michigan.
Lake Michigan. Yeah, another creepy place. There's a lot of weird stuff there too.
Oh yeah.
Lake Michigan, a lot of stories out of that place.
There's
So-
satellite footage of over Lake Michigan where I'm at, Michigan City, where the NASA has this thing where they could not explain this weird white glow that showed up twice in the global imaging. It happened right over Michigan City. Don't ask me what it is. All I know is we have a lot of quartz in our sand, and that was one theory. There's a whole beach there. It's like 90% quartz sand.
Well, I don't know. At least, if you're going to live up there in Michigan, if you're going to live in Illinois, it's probably, Indiana, it's probably best that you live near the lake. I would think. I mean, I don't know. Am I right or wrong? It's kind of like having a beach, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a bit. We're a beach town in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
Got a lot of Illinois people that buy up the rich houses on the beachfront and hope their house doesn't sink into the dunes.
The Illinois people are coming down here too. There's a lot of them. They're like, I'm from Chicago. I'm like, I couldn't tell.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they have
Al Capone built a house shaped as a gun in our town.
Oh, really?
That's funny.
My cousin grew up in a house that was one of Al Capone's, probably places where they were storing shipments they were getting from Canada, through Michigan, through Canada, and all that. They were, processing it there because it had a secret room. We were like 4 or 5 years old, and we were playing in his closet, and the wall popped out, and there's this tunnel, and the tunnel led to a neighbor just way down the road under their porch, but you could get into their house from there.
Wow. A lot of creepy
route.
stories from the speakeasies. There's one here in Austin that's been a very prominent place. One of the murders from the servant girl murderer, it happened right there by, and it's a very prominent speakeasy back in the 1920s.
Yeah.
And I've heard of people claiming that they see things there. There was another haunted place called the Spaghetti Warehouse. I showed you the other day. But it's not called that now. It's called something else. But that place is haunted. I used to talk to a waitress named Elizabeth that worked there, and she was always telling us stories about stuff that had gone on there. So I went there with my brother. We didn't eat there because the food was not good. That's why it's not there. But we went there, and the manager told us some crazy stuff. Like the spirit at night after they would get off, it would take things and slap people, push people. I don't know about now. I haven't talked to anybody from there, but a lot of weird, creepy stuff. And so I don't have the original Dogman story that I was going to talk about. I have to go back, and I left my notes. Well, I didn't. I say I left my notes on my computer. I didn't put them onto the phone, so that was dumb. But we're living in a mess right now. So, one of the things we talked about the other day, and Jason, I don't know, you listen to the show probably sporadically, but we got into, people seeing. It was very brief. We talked about it, about people seeing things on Halloween, and they don't know if what they're looking at is real because there's costumes. Everybody's in costumes.
Right.
Yeah, and so one of the things, Anthony, you know the story. It was from a Sudanese guy that I used to work with at the parking garage. You want to give the overview of it a little bit?
So, in a nutshell, this guy saw these people who, they look like they were dressed up as like some kind of demonic, like humanoid looking creature, people, but to him there was just something about them that just screamed like this is not a costume. This is these people are like they're hiding in plain sight. There's something not right here. Like these aren't a couple people having fun, wearing makeup and prosthetics or whatever. They're not just going all out. Like you could feel that there was something very real there. Mm-hmm. And I thought this probably happens way often.
I mean, if you're a monster, or an entity or something, this is your night, man. This is your night to walk about. I mean, I was
Yeah.
just watching the Chucky TV show. It's great.
Oh,
And
man, I gotta-
you know, it's a Halloween, and he just puts a Hello Kitty mask on top of his face and walks around. Gives a woman an apple with a razor blade in it. And he's like, "Hi, I'm Chucky." Like, everybody buys it. I guess she's like, she's spitting out blood. Some redheaded evil child gave me this.
So what happened though? The guy's name is Malik. We have permission to use his. I've known him for years. We used to work together at the park garage, and so he said, "Hey man, your Halloween's coming up." He reached out to me out of the blue. Well, not out of the blue. My friend Bandar gave him my information, but this Lebanese guy I know we're friends with, and so he gave him my information, and at least I think that's who it was because that's our mutual friend. And he said, "Hey, I know you got a show." And this was like 2 weeks ago. And he said, "I know Halloween's coming up." And so I told Anthony, we talked about this story. And I said, we should talk about it because something similar happened to me. But the thing is, I can't say, I'm not going to sit up here and lie and say, oh, it was a demon. I don't know what it was, but it didn't look like a person. Well, I mean, it was a humanoid shaped person, but it looked demonic as hell. Mm-hmm. And it stood out from everything else. And so, some of my friends who work downtown on 6th Street and other places down there, sorry guys, they have expressed that they've seen things that they thought, wow, that's weird. People, these people who were in the parking garage, they looked like devils in every sense of the word, because he's Muslim. So I asked Malik, I said, were they like jinn? And he goes, I don't want to say jinn because jinn are typically, they have a certain profile. He goes, these looked like classic devils, like you would see like from hell, like they were red, their skin was red, and there was black hair, real thick. You could see the red skin under the hair. And he said he goes, if it was a costume, he goes, man, it was the best costume I've ever seen. But here's what happened. He comes out of the elevator. Now, I have another story about that same building because something happened to me in Scorpion there, but I'm not going to, we've talked about that one before. There's another one I got. Same place. There's a building above that parking garage. I'll tell you exactly what it's on Lavaca. That's where it's at. There's a parking garage there. And so, I mean, if you can figure out where it's at, more power to you. I don't care. I mean, it's just, it's not one of our accounts and it probably never will be. But years ago, I worked for another company and they've had that account forever. Mm-hmm. And so there was some weird stuff there. But the thing is, that place kind of got overlooked because the building across the way was more haunted. And there was a walkway that connects them, so you can figure it out. Mm-hmm. And then the one I was at, the one you named the Haunted Tower, that one was worse too. And then the LBJ building was much worse. So that building was just like, that one's haunted, but ain't something going to grab you, like that. So it wasn't a big deal. It's like we had all these buildings there. And I've had people come on the show, and talk about these buildings, stuff happening to them in these buildings. But this one was weird. He came out. This was a Halloween night. It was a Halloween night, and he came out of the parking garage elevator from using the restroom. And he says, I see these 3 guys standing on the 2nd floor, and their heads were almost touching the ceiling. Well, their horns were. They had horns, and there were 3 of them. I can't move this thing, but 3. And so one of the things that he told me, and you guys can tell me what you think. I don't know. There was some weirdness about them. Like when he got close to them, like he walked by them, they were giving off like a heat, But then once you got out of that general vicinity, he goes, it was like cold, which he thought was weird. And then he told me that they were all red. Because at first I said, Malik, very possible that they could have just been costumes. And he said that they were about 7.5 foot tall. The biggest guy was the middle guy. He goes, the other 2 were about 6.5, about a foot shorter. And the biggest one was big dude. And he kind of made me laugh when he said, he goes, how they depict Satan on South Park.
Yeah.
And so, of course I'm going to laugh because, I mean, it's like,
yeah. They just need a Saddam Hussein there.
Yeah. He's like, hey, guy, what are you doing over here? I didn't think you come to the garage. Hey, guy.
Stop it, Saddam.
Stop it, you're embarrassing me in front of my friends. I'm the Dark Lord of hell. So, when he said that, he goes, but it's not a funny thing. And I choked back laughter because this guy's kind of a serious dude. And so I didn't want to make him think that I was trivializing what he was talking about. And the truth be told, he had told me this a long time ago. It was kind of like in passing. But that night I was drinking. And so he was telling me, remember that story I told you? And I'm like, not really. I mean, how many shots of Garrison did I don't know. I mean, it depends. I didn't think I drank Garrison back then. But anyway, the point is, he had told me before, and we worked together. And so when he told me this, again, he reiterated it. I said, "Oh yeah, that's a good subject to talk about, because how many of these things happen, and we don't know." And so he said they were red, but they had like black hair, like coarse hair on their bodies, and they had no shirts on, and their legs were backward bent, like dog-like legs, or but they had hooves.
Mm-hmm.
And they just stood there, and people were walking by, and some people were completely oblivious, like almost ran into them. And then others were like stopping and looking at them and admiring them. And it was, he said, this happened in like 2003, I believe. It's been a while. And phones weren't what they are now. And so people didn't, but some people had cameras and they were trying to take pictures. He claimed that one person came back the next weekend. The following weekend or whatever, that following weekend, and that they told them that they took a picture of these guys, and it was just like there was blur.
Mm-hmm.
It was just blurred out, like it was blurry. You couldn't make out what it was. And so he said they smelled like sulfur, like rot. And he said it was weird. He goes, I did my rounds, I came back down, they were gone. And he said it was very obvious to him. To him, he believes, and he said he'll take it to his grave. I've known this guy since 1999, and they used to hang out at our club. But he swears up and down that those were, they were devils, demons, and one of them was standing with his arms crossed, and they were just kind of talking, and they were observing the people. And he said when he got close to them, they were speaking in a language he didn't understand. So. There again, he's not a linguist. He didn't know, but he goes, I couldn't make it out. He goes, I know how Hebrew sounds. I know how Arabic sounds. And, and he goes, I couldn't make out what it was. So who knows?
The one description sounds like Tim Curry's kind of depiction
of the legend. Yeah. Yeah. And I threw that one out there too. And I showed him a photo of it, and he said, kinda, but a little different. The head, the horns on that one were bigger, too big, and it was more makeup-y looking. He goes, Wolf, I'm telling you, if you saw this, you would think it was real.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were real devils, real demons. He goes, and it scared the hell out of me. And he said he went home and he had nightmares, for a long time. Now, there was another story that I got of some people who went to a Halloween party. And funny, we were talking earlier about Chicago. But this one happened not in Chicago, but in the suburbs of Chicago. And the guy that gave it to me, I've known him for a long time too. But he claims that at that party, there was a guy there that was like 7 foot tall, and he had wings on his back that worked like they could pop out. And he looked like a big demonic vampire looking dude. He was about 7 foot tall, and everybody was amazed by this guy. And that he jumped up in the air, like in front of like several people, and was gone. And nobody really knew. Everybody was like, I thought he was with you. I thought he was with you, blah, 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 But I've been at parties where weird people showed up and you didn't know who the hell they were.
Yeah.
I mean, but not like that. Not a guy who's 7 foot tall, And so when that guy gave me that story, that was right after last Halloween. And I said, Jeff, you're killing. His name's Jeff. I said, Jeff, you're killing me, dude. You're gonna give me this one after Halloween. You're gonna wait a whole year to tell the story. But the description was similar. The eyes were yellow. Now, the eyes on these demons that Malik saw were black. They're completely black. But this other one in Chicago, outside of Chicago, was a party that happened. I think he said in 2015. I'm pretty sure is what it was. And the eyes were yellow. And I made a joke. I was like, well, what if he's jaundiced? And he's got some really amazing wings because he's a scientist. And because it's easier to believe that it's some sort of weird supernatural thing because some of the when you hear yourself trying to make excuses for this crap.
It's like there's too much that has to come together
Yeah.
for the rational explanation to be there, you know.
With it being on Halloween, though, like I said, it's the night for the monsters. Because if you go with Occam's razor, simplest explanation, it's Halloween. It's people in extreme cosplay. That's the the devil's advocate to it. And that, like I said, it's the perfect night. If you're a monster, you're something abnormal. You want to party at a college frat house that's got everybody else dressed up. Yeah, you're gonna have a good time.
So
Nobody's gonna know.
34 years ago, I saw something on Halloween. 34. It's 34. That's a long time. 34 years, and I saw the Dogman or werewolf, whatever the hell it was. And I told it on your show, Jason. I don't think I've ever once told the story on my show. I've told it on Tony Merkel's show. I've told it on Jason's show and a couple others. And there's magazines that have it, and I think a book. No, I know there is 2 books out there. Wouldn't recommend them. One of them was like really hard to read, and the guy ripped off a bunch of my stuff, so I'm not going to even give him credit. But yeah, there's a lot of information. I'm in a British magazine talking about it, and then the Wilco newspaper that recently I didn't even realize that because I didn't do the interview.
Yeah,
but I guess they gathered enough information about me to do a story.
Probably checked out the show.
What's it called? The Wilco Examiner, or something like that?
I think it's called the East Williamson County, either East Wilco Examiner or something like that.
But anyway, I'm in there most recently, and the lady was really nice. She's a good friends with Whitley Strieber. She knew him very well, and she's a semi-retired journalist, and she tried to get in touch with me, but I just couldn't make it happen. And I said, look, just write whatever you got to write, and if it looks bad, it's bad. I don't care. But it wasn't. I read a little bit of it. My uncle has a copy of it. But that story has become sort of legend, in my hometown. But there are multiple other people in my book, I talk about it, that have seen the Dogman. So one of the stories I wanted to tell tonight, and I don't know if you or guys, Jason, if you just want to, what you want to do. I mean, you have anything to tell or talk about, or if you want to just.
Well, we talk about stuff happened on Halloween. My big shadow person experience. The night that the thing followed me home was the day after Halloween, November 1st. Yeah. Yeah, it was the day after Halloween. When I first saw this scene, it was the week before Halloween the year before, when I was at a party.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And you told that on my show.
Yeah, I think it was like prom at that time, and I was skipping it. And that's what all the kids that weren't going had a party out in the woods, and that's when I first saw the scene, and it was close to Halloween. And then when we went back a year later, it was the day after Halloween because we couldn't go Halloween night. I was playing in a band doing a show that night. So I don't know. That's when things, it's that time of year, I guess, for a reason.
And speaking of so people see things, and there'll be multiple people who will see something, and not everybody sees the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's really weird. So there were some kids that went out to Lawrence Cemetery. You know where that's at. It's been the sighting of the arena for there was a guy that had a giant wolf pounce on his car. Another guy claims he went out there back in the 80s and he had an encounter with a cat-looking thing. But that area going toward Nowak from that area out there, pretty much across like the other side of Thrall going towards south, there is a lot of weird stories, and there's that area we've gotten several people talking about seeing Black Panthers. One of the reports we got, and this is interesting, Jason, there was one. These people admitted to us though that they were on drugs. I mean, they admitted to us. I'm going to be honest and say that that's what they said. But if it wasn't for that area having had so many reports coming out of there, I would have just thought, okay, click, But he goes, look, man, we were on, but I think because they were coming down off of what they were on, they were coming back from a party.
Yeah.
And it's multiple. So it's not just one person's like, I was on drugs and I saw this, and you'd be like, yeah, sure.
No, it was
all of us saw the same thing, shared hallucination. Okay, now we're talking. Okay.
Yeah, and I wonder about it because I think maybe what they saw this cat-like, it looked like a man, but he was black and he had fur and he had the head of a cat, like a panther. and he was running along the side of the road, and he was moving his hand up and down. Thank you for that donation, Tito. First one of the night. Appreciate it. And he was waving his arm like he was trying to wave them down.
What?
Yeah. And so when I talked to the guy, and you, Anthony, you know who it is.
You're trying to hitch a ride.
Let's put it this way. You know his cousin and his mother. You know him.
Okay.
His cousin used to work for us.
Mm-hmm.
He worked for us over at Garden Ridge.
Okay.
You know who I'm talking about. Okay. And they're from that area. But I had never met this guy. So the other guy gave me his information and said, hey, talk to this guy, my cousin. So when he tells me, he goes like, I was at a party and I was high.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing you do is go, oh, he goes, but look, it was me and my girlfriend. He goes, and look, I've never hallucinated like that. He's like, but I know what I saw. And this guy was running alongside, this thing was running, let's say guy, because I have a theory about it, but it was running alongside the road on a county road right there outside of Nowak. I don't know. I remember the county road. I didn't memorize it, but I know exactly where it's at, And he said that he saw it, and it tried to wave them down, and they were like, what the heck? And so he asked his girlfriend, he's like, what did you just see? And she says, I saw some sort of cat-like being on two legs. And he goes, holy crap, that's what I saw. And so they knew that it wasn't at least they don't believe it was the drugs. Now I told him this. I think he actually kind of wanted me to say, hey, I've never heard of anything like that, and maybe he could rest at night, whatever. But it was a hallucination.
Yeah.
But I said, look, I think you want me to tell you that you hallucinated. I don't think you did. And I tell him this, I think you saw it, and I think that this thing thought it would trick you because it was trying to wave you down because it was probably thought you were seeing him as a man.
Mm-hmm.
That's my theory. Now that sounds crazy. The story sounds
perception's
crazy.
altered, but their perception's altered, right?
Yeah.
So
they're in an altered state of mind.
Yeah.
mhm.
And there's crazy. Here you go. Here's a police officer, Gil Sanchez. He's been on the show, and he's talked about seeing a goat man. So there you go. Hey, Gil, how you doing? Not to put you on the spot, Gil, but there you go. There's a guy right there who's been on the show. But the thing is, I mean, this thing waved him down. I tried to wave him down. So I had a friend named Aaron. He's no longer with us or whatever. He's not dead. He's in prison. Will be for a long time because that's what happens when you make meth labs. Now this is I
sounded like a great idea at the time.
Yeah, I hadn't talked to him in 11 years when that happened. I was like, oh, he went in a different direction. That's super.
There's a lot of money in it. I'm just saying. Crime does pay.
Until it blows up.
Until it doesn't.
Breaking Bad was a hit, right?
It drugs bad. Yeah.
Don't do
Exactly.
drugs. Good.
So this guy tells me, he's like, I see this thing, and I, honestly, I really do think that he wanted us to tell him that he didn't see what he saw. But I said there's a person's farm not far from there. I'm not going to say their name because it's hot in here. You turn the AC or something, it's hot, man. But I said, there's a farm right there, not far from there, about a half a mile, between a quarter and a half a mile from there. And that guy gave us a story way back that happened in like 2008. And it was like there was this panther-looking creature that grabbed a ewe, like a lamb, and carried it. It scaled a big fence. He'd put his lambs, and his sheep inside of a fence, and it scaled it with one, and it was holding it with an arm, and it was just using the other one to climb, and then it jumped over it. And this guy's an old farmer. In fact, he's not around anymore, but his son is. And I since then have reconnected with his son, a couple years ago. I guess say recent. It's not recent. I'm old, so I think, I say the other day, and it's like, 2016. You're like, oh yeah, the other day. Jason was on the show the other day, like 2 years ago, whatever. But
It all blends together.
Yeah, everything just runs together when you get older. So this guy, he claims, he says, look, man, he's like, and I'll even do his accent. He goes, the darndest thing I ever saw. Damn near shit my pants. He's like, I'm wearing my overalls. I'm out there, and I hear all this ruckus. My dogs are barking. I go outside, and I see this black panther scale a fence carrying one of my ewes. And I said, and he kind of stopped right there, and I was like, oh, Black Panther. I mean, they say they exist. I'm of the opinion that they're jaguars that come out of Mexico. And I'm like, oh, it's probably a jaguar. And he goes, jaguar don't have human arms. And I'm like, okay, you didn't tell me that part. Let's back it up
Well,
here.
I think it was implied that he said he was carrying.
Yeah, well, I
something.
think
Maybe
because it
that's
could
where
carry
you
in its mouth. I
Right,
mean, they're
right.
very powerful.
Yeah,
Jaguars are
true.
powerful. They take
Yeah, they
caiman
will
out of the
carry.
water in their
Yeah.
mouths. And so when he said that, I said, oh, with its arms. Because I was kind of waiting for the supernatural element to come out. You know, I said, what is, you know? And he said, then I saw it again one time stalking around my pasture, and I shot it 3 times. And so, you know, there again, I don't know, you know, deer rifle. And I had another guy recently, not too long ago, over there near, what is that area down there where Kenny and what's his name, Juan, they had the taco truck. They used to live down in there, bottom land. It's real bad. Always stuff happening over there. Elroy.
Yeah.
Down there in that bottom land of Elroy, there was a guy named Juan, not the one that we know, a different one, that was recommended by his, you know, but he said, look, man, he goes, I shot at this panther thing that was coming onto my property. And now he said that when it was coming onto his property, it was going after his dogs and his cats, and it was trying to, and he lived in a trailer, and he said, I came out there, and when I hit it with some buckshot, you know, it jumped up and kind of spun around and did this weird kind of shaky, herky jerky, and then it was upright. And then it ran upright for a little while and then got back down and kind of adjusted itself and then was all on all fours again. But that's not anywhere near, that's probably what, 30, 40 miles from Nowak.
Mm-hmm.
So there, and that's the only report I got out of there. And then he said that he saw what he thought was the same creature and he shot it with a Creedmoor. And so he goes, I nailed it. I know I did because it jumped again and it was in the pasture and it ran. But it didn't kill it because he could still hear it at night, you know, like roaring, like, you know, these panthers sound like women screaming, pissed off women screaming. And he's like, he's convinced that it's still going on. And I talked to him back in August, the last time he had messaged us, which, by the way, our email is almost full of me. Can you believe that? It sent us a thing saying,
That's
what,
crazy.
87% full.
God.
Like, how do we get that?
We're gonna have to start paying for emails.
Yeah, I told Anthony, I said, we
I've
already
never
have
done that.
what in the hell, dude? That's a lot, dude. There's a lot. So, you know, and when you get a story from somebody, you start talking to them, you're not just going to have one email. There's going to be several,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and so we got to take them and put them in the different folders, whatever, but the computer's starting to fill up. So we're going to go take it and dump it out like trash.
Yeah, just flip it over,
Just flip it over.
empty
Like-
it.
Like on, what's it called?
Zoolander.
Zoolander. It's in the computer?
Yeah,
All these emails are in the computer. Let's just dump it out. That's all you got to do.
you got to take the siding off and all that electronic stuff. You just pull it out and
Yeah.
empty it.
You got to
Trash.
use Owen Wilson's voice. It's in the computer?
Yeah.
All we got to do is dump it out.
Wow, it's in the computer.
Sounds like they work for Hillary Clinton. Oh, sorry.
Oh, my God. Time to delete the emails, man. So what the craziness with these creatures, these beings. So when I heard that story, when the guy was being waved down, whatever. So Lawrence Cemetery is not far from there. I promise you, we're going to do an investigation there. Once we close on this house that we're getting, that's it. When we're done with all this, you know, then we're going to get this equipment that we're trying to purchase from somebody that's got it for a really good price, and it's a lot of good stuff. And we're going to use that, and we're going to go to Lawrence Cemetery because that place, I believe, has some really creepy stuff. Now, there was a guy, you know where Scruggs is at,
Mm-hmm.
the bull riding place. Yeah, we go out there every year. But there was a guy who said he was out there. He goes, it wasn't far from Scruggs, and this guy's name is Johnny. And I went to school. I knew this guy for years. I mean, he didn't go to school with me, but he's, you know, from the area. He's outside of Bartlett. But he was out there, you know, driving with his girl. And he said, dude, I saw this thing run across the road. Excuse me. He says, I almost hit it. He goes, but the back legs came up. Right? The back legs came up on this thing, and it started to walk kind of on its front paws, but they were hands, like hands.
Yeah.
And the legs came up, and it was like, and it just ran like that, and it escaped him hitting it. Now he's got a Dodge Charger and he drives pretty fast on
Mhm.
them country roads, and of course, you know. But he said, "Dude, I was hauling ass, and I was going around those curves, and that thing just really quickly." And he goes, "I told my well, this is not his girlfriend, it's his wife, you know. Now at the time it was his girlfriend." He says, "Did we just see a werewolf? What was that?" And she said, "The front limbs look like arms." And she was in bless you, she was on the passenger side. I got a better look at it. So fast forward, you know, this was back in 2011, 12, something like that. And he still got that car, you know, and like it's like, you know, this guy's a car guy, whatever. So we were talking, and he says, "My brother," well, not his real brother, it's a guy he just calls his brother, but he says he had an experience out there near Lawrence Cemetery. I'll tell you what happened. Okay, so this ball of light came floating across the road, and he goes, this is his brother, his friend, whatever he calls him, his brother. He's like, "Me and a couple of our friends were out there drinking near Lawrence Cemetery." Now, of course, they were drinking, and they were teenagers at the time. They were young. And he said, "We saw this ball of light bouncing around on the backside of that cemetery, which is all woods back there. And then there's an old cabin, right?" And it was interesting. Remember when we stopped and we took pictures of it in the daytime? We were coming back from Scruggs at the bull riding event. And they said that cabin was built in like the 1830s or something like that. And I was thinking, damn, how did the Kiowa and the Comanche and the Apaches miss them? Because that thing was still there. It wasn't burned down. They didn't shoot it full of arrows.
Or
I don't know
they
how
knew
they
to stay away from that land.
That's
Yeah.
what was said. We were with Loki. Remember, and Loki
It's the
goes,
only thing that'll keep them away.
"Yeah," he said, "these damn creatures out here probably kept them out of there." Because I said, "How the hell do you build that right there on the frontier?" And nothing. That cabin's still there. Nothing happened to it.
You got to think a
So-
lot of pioneers that were building in those areas. They're like, well, the Indians aren't going here. They would notice where they've stayed away from. Let's put up a community there, and then you know, Roanoke, things like that. You know, things happen, right?
Yeah,
It seemed like a good real estate, but there's a reason they left that land alone.
I think Taylor is kind of like that too. My hometown, there was the largest artesian well, and there were no Native Americans in that area, even though that water was there. They didn't go there. Well, hell, you got Dogman running around on Halloween, and you know, there were like 6 different people that I interviewed. Those are the ones I put in the book. That's not all of them. In particular, that 34 years ago, there was a flap. I would call it a flap. And so you have this weird whatever is going on out there. So he said, he goes, "I see this ball of light." He goes, "It looked yellow." He's like, "To me, it looked orange, but everybody was saying, look at that yellow light." He goes, "And by the time my girlfriend got my attention, it looked orange." And they said, "It's changing color." And at first it was kind of in the distance, and they thought it was the moon, but then it came down and it was bouncing above the tree line. Then it went down, came out of the woods, and went across the land right there where they were at the cemetery, because all the spooky stuff's there, right? So they're over there trying to scare each other, whatever. And then it goes by the cabin, comes around the other side of it, and then goes real quick and is gone. Boom. Shoots off, kind of up at an angle, and then back down across the road. So he says, as they're leaving, everybody's talking about it like, "Whoa, this is crazy." There were 2 vehicles. He said, "We got in our vehicle, they got in theirs. There were 3 people in my vehicle. We went in 2 different directions." I headed back toward Bartlett. So he had to get back onto 79. He goes, "We're almost to 79 where the railroad tracks are." And I think he was on 421 or 4, whatever that road is. Thank you, Jason, for that gifted 20. Thank you, Jason Brassard. Guys, we're going to do a giveaway tonight, so make sure that you buy a membership, because we don't put anything behind a paywall. Although I'm happy to announce we are going to start doing Q&As. This was suggested to me by someone from the emails. And I think we're going to start doing Q&As with the Patreon members. So if you want to ask questions or talk or whatever, pick my brain about any of these cases, get the 411. Maybe there's something that we don't, whatever. And I'm going to do it for like maybe an hour, maybe once every couple of weeks at first. And then we'll see where it goes. Because our hiatus, we lost a lot of Patreon members, but we had a lot of Patreon members.
I need to do something like that with my Patreon. I'm really lazy about my Patreon. Thank you, my 11 Patrons out there.
Yeah.
They put up with my
Yeah,
crap.
you got to do something, and so not only are we giving away the swag bags for the Patreon, but we're going to do the talk. We're going to do like a talk at least twice a month, every couple of weeks, and we're going to do just a Patreon exclusive, just Q&A. But we're going to start that in November, after November 15th, right? That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Okay, so that next week will be the first of those. We're going to get that started. So that is going to be, it's going to be great because, and it's not going to take away from stories. We're not going to put anything behind a paywall, but we will answer questions and we'll shoot the breeze with you. And you can ask us things that, you might want to go in depth on these stories, and you might want to know more about the people that these happen to. And maybe we can get some of them to whatever. But yeah, so join the Patreon. It's you can put the link up there, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I don't see Maddie in here. I don't know where she's at. She's too busy with work, working for us. Can't just neglect your duties to help us. Jeez, please.
Did you ever see them? You were talking about cat people. Did you ever see the movie from the 80s, Cat People?
Cat People?
1982? Yeah.
My grandparents got HBO for me when I would come to stay in the summertime. And I watched about 10 minutes of it, and my grandfather turned the TV on.
I bet he did.
He was like, "What is that?"
Bet he did.
Not even the most moral man either, but he didn't want that on there.
Yeah. I mean, if you remember, the plot line of that is that it's the brother has to sleep with his sister to reproduce the bloodline of because they're shapeshifters.
What the hell?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's massive. Malcolm McDowell, Natasha Kinski. So I'm looking at it from 1982. Ed Begley Jr. was in it too. Yeah. But yeah, I saw that movie when I was a kid, and I probably should have never seen that movie when I was a kid. But
you're so
I
into
love that
film.
movie.
You were such.
I went to film
buff.
school.
Yeah, you need to get Garitano on your show. Y'all need to go on each other's shows. Chris Garitano,
for that,
because that guy's got
Montauk.
so much.
But yeah, if they try to communicate to us through film, maybe they're trying to tell us about these changelings that exist among us. Maybe cat people's an insight. I mean, think about it. If this is a changeling phenomenon, if it's run through like people's genes or heredity, like they're the ones that can indwell the creature inside to do this, to handle it, which is the conspiracy theories out there. If you get deep down that rabbit hole. Well, there might be some inbreeding there to keep that line going. So cat people kind of might have had a clue in that.
Well, I mean, if you think about the reptilian bloodline, I mean,
Like
obviously, there's so much stories and intrigue about that. Like, I mean, is that real? We don't know. But I mean, a lot of people. We had a guy come on the show, Mike Clark, and talk about, he was in an elevator and watched one of these things bite another person's head. And he pretended like it was like, he thought it was a, what did he say? It was like a sketch or something.
Yeah.
And he just walked out, and then these guys grabbed him, and then they let him go because they told him just let him go, because it'd be easier just to play it off, especially if you have, nobody's going to believe you. Right. Yeah. So back to what happened with this guy. And so he saw, I can't remember his name. I think his name's Matt or something like that. No, I'm sorry. Zach. This guy's name was Zach. The other dude was Matt. That's a different. So what Zach saw when he was coming back to the railroad tracks, and like I said, I know his friend very well. I don't know him very well. I don't know him, but I know his friend. And he gave us the information and said, "Hey, talk to this guy." And he saw something too. And I guess because he thought maybe he needed validation or whatever, but I already know that area is really messed up. And he said when we were getting back to the railroad tracks, he goes, "We see this thing that looked like it was laying down and it's like these fields, plowed fields or whatever." And he said it looked like it was laying down and it just blended in with the black dirt. And then it stands up. He goes, and my friend in the back seat, he's like going, dude, look, there's something standing right there. There's something standing. This was about, 8-9 miles from wherever they had been. And he said, dude, there's something standing there. He goes, and then we just took off. We slowed down, then we just burned off, went over the tracks, and we were out on the 79 and got back. And he said, it looked like it was laying down. And And we looked back, and there was something running alongside the car just temporarily. Then it veered off. And he said, but it didn't show itself until we were about to get to the highway. And that speaks to these things being some sort of ethereal being that has the ability to do that. And so I don't care what anybody says. I know that I believed it was flesh and blood for a long time. But how do you explain that? There has to be some sort of component to it not being flesh and blood, because there's just too much weirdness that surrounds these things. And so they didn't even know what it was. They just said it had kind of a triangular head. They could have been a Bigfoot. They don't know what it was. Well, get this. When he goes home, at that time he lived out in the country outside of Granger, Bartlett area. And we've had somebody tell us a story about Granger too. But that area is, I grew up, around that area. But he said, dude, I was asleep. He was staying with his grandparents at the time. He was a young guy at that time. And he said, I was asleep. He goes, and something shook our trailer. He had a trailer. He goes, I wake up and I'm like, whoa. And everything's kind of moving around back and forth. Stuff's falling off of my shelves. He goes, I had like a pocket knife collection that just fell. He got up. He was like, what in the hell is going on? He's like, dude, the first thing I did was go and I grabbed my gun. And I grabbed the shotgun. And I said, I'm going to go out there and blast whatever the hell this is. He's like, and then as I started to go to the door, he said, my uncle, who was standing, he's blind. His uncle was blind. He was born blind, but he had a weird ability. Like he had like we would call in Spanish, ojo dotado.
Yeah.
Because even blind people, they can see with the eye.
Mm-hmm.
And his uncle, who's actually not much older than him, only like a few years, it's one of those things where his uncle said, hey, don't open that door. There's something out there. Where were you? And he said, we were out at the cemetery. He goes, the Lawrence Cemetery. Says, yeah. He goes, man, it followed you and it's following you. He said after that, he stood there by the door. The noise stopped. He heard this loud growl. And then he heard these loud whoops. You know how Bigfoot kind of sounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
Out in the woods. And then he just was like, okay. And then it stopped. So then he goes back to his bed. He goes, I didn't go to sleep. The sleep was nice. It was like 1 a.m. I just stayed up. Then he heard these loud howling noises about 3 a.m., witching hour. He's like, and then I was back finally just starting to doze off about 6, 7 in the morning. But then he goes, I get woken up with what sounds like clapping, like boom, somebody clapping, boom, boom, boom in his room. So he wakes up and he sees his clothes, like the closet's like open and you can see it. And his shirts and stuff are being moved around. Like something's in the closet moving around. So he jumps up, he freaks out. He goes and he grabs his grandpa's Bible. He goes, I never would go to church. I never was religious. He goes, this was Sunday morning. He goes, and I told her, I was like, Mima, I'm going to church with you. He said, so I started going to church. He said, but it didn't stop. It didn't change anything. And he goes, and I wasn't baptized. I wasn't saved, anything like that. Later he did, after all this. But then he said he was in the shower. And he goes, he was getting ready to go pick up his girlfriend. And something hit the side of the trailer again. And he said it was so hard, like he had his arm on the shower, that it knocked him back. And he fell out of the shower, but the shower curtain kind of broke his fall. Like he grabbed on it and kind of fell. He's a skinny guy. Me, I'd have been toast. I'd have fallen right through the floor. It'd have been like, well, I'm under the floor. Honey, I just fell out of the shower.
It'd have been like Gilbert Grape.
Thanks, man. Dude, I lost like 44 pounds. I thought I was looking good. Now I'm Gilbert Grape's mom over here. Thank you. You see this, Jason?
I got the help from Gilbert.
See, that's why Jason has Jamie as his co-host and not two little turds that insult you.
People like the two turds, though.
Do they? I think they like Jamie better.
I'm the main turd. That's why I got the big enough mouth.
You're the turdness over there. Like your royal turdness.
The royal turdness. Thank you.
So what ended up happening? He says, dude, I fell onto the floor. I hurt my knee. I was like a mess. He goes, and then he's like, I started having these dreams. He goes, I had these nightmares for like a week straight. I was having nightmares. And get this, Jason, I waited because I knew Jason was going to come on tonight. He saw this creature, thing, whatever, at the foot of his bed. Okay. And this is one of the only reasons why I'm apprehensive to go do an investigation out there, but I'm still going to do it.
Yeah,
I'm
be
still gonna
careful.
do it. I know.
But from my own
Investigation work.
personal experience, I've had something like this follow me home from some train tracks where people had died multiple times and ended up at the foot of my bed for nights on end,
Mm.
messing with me. And like I said, why I always wonder is the one time I saw this thing really reveal its face to me, it looked bestial.
Yep, that's exactly what he said. So Zach tells me, he says, dude, and he's a very countrified person. People that live out in the country, we live out in the country, but I'm saying like people that are always like, hey, you gonna burn your trash today? You gonna just let it pile up? What you gonna do? That kind of talk like that, right? So he was like, so I'm laying there in bed and something shakes me awake, and I look and I see this. He didn't say bestial, but he says like this beast man looking thing. And he described it, his body, as pretty sleek and thin in the middle, but these huge thighs, and then this upper body like a man. And he said he could have swore it had horns, but it had the head, the face of a wolf.
Right.
And so he goes, I'm sitting there looking at this, and my eyes are trying to adjust, and I'm like, what in the hell? And, am I looking at it? And then a bunch of expletives. But he said, dude, he goes, I laid there and I stared at this thing probably 10 solid minutes, and then it moved around to the side of the bed with me where I was. He goes, and it stood there, and I could see the breathing. It was like a flesh and blood thing. And I said, but if it's flesh and blood, though, Zach, how did it get in your house? He goes, I don't know. That's something he could not figure out. So this thing was at the side of his bed. I mean, its chest is heaving. He could see breathing, So it speaks to it being flesh and blood, but at least temporarily. But it doesn't do anything. At that point, he goes, it's like it backed up into the shadows and then it was gone. And he goes, and then I sat up and I'm like, did I just see that? What in the hell was that? He said the thing was so tall it almost touched the ceiling. And he couldn't tell me exactly the height. He just said, I don't know, man. I don't know how tall the ceilings were. It was pretty tall. And he says, I got up and I turned the light on. There was nothing in the room. He goes, but the room was extremely cold. And it shouldn't have been, And he said he got out of there, and he said he went and told his grandparents. It had a double wide trailer. And his grandparents, they didn't know what to make of it. They'd never heard or seen anything like this. But his grandfather had an interesting. This is why you should always follow up, folks. If you write books, or you're a researcher, like I said before, or if you're someone who retells stories, or if you're getting people on the show, whatever, always ask if there's more, because these people oftentimes they've looked for answers for this, and 90% of the time, I'd say 9 times out of 10, they have talked to other people. And they've found people who have seen these things. Not always. Now, there's that 10% that's just like, I don't want to talk about it. And they're not going to be the ones messaging you, typically. But sorry, Plymouth Pugwudge. He says, not a huge fan of the no rewind. Sorry, man. We have to, because people would put the messages on there. No?
They'll be behind when they comment.
Yeah, they wouldn't realize that they're like 10 minutes behind, and then like ask questions that have been answered, and then the chat just becomes, oh, they already talked about that. Here's the answer, and it derails everything.
Yeah. So if they want to call me a poo-poo cockahead, you can do that anytime.
Yeah.
Just say it and leave. Josh Turner's a poo-poo cockahead. I hate the guy. He's very handsome. He needs to go. Get away from him.
Can I have a question about this? He saw this thing with multiple people, or at least one other person, right?
No, not what he saw in his room, but he saw.
No, but when he had the graveyard, the initial encounter.
They saw a ball of light.
They saw a ball of light. He was with a group of people.
Yes, there were 6 people.
Did it do any of this to any of those other people? Follow them.
You're getting ahead here. Okay.
Oh, sorry. That'd be my question. That's where I'd go. Sorry.
It's a very astute question. No more questions for you. Okay?
Personal
No
experience.
more.
Sorry.
So what ended up happening? He tells me, he says, dude, I can't. This thing doesn't stop. Now, his girlfriend wasn't having this happen, but this is where what you just said, his girlfriend's best friend who was there and was dating his other friend. I don't know his name. But anyways, this other girl that was, I don't know her name either, but this other girl, she was living out near Copeland. You know where that's at, Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
That's where she lived. And they actually met at Copeland Dance Hall, which is a pretty cool place. Very old, rustic place, been around since the 1840s. Or I'm sorry, 1850s. But crazy, they met there, and she was having stuff happen like in her house. Now it started off, it seemed more like a haunting though. It was like electrical stuff was happening. There was electrical stuff happening, and she saw the same ball of light, which she thinks it was the same ball of light, zipping around in the sky at night. And now her brother, who would, and you know, if you live out in the country out there, you can see all the stars. It's a beautiful place to have a telescope or something. So she was out there with her brother, and they were looking up at the stars. And she was just out there because she wanted to see if she could see. So there was this star, and her brother knows astronomy, and he's like, "That's not a star. I don't know what that is." And then they thought maybe it was a plane. They thought it was a helicopter. And then it started to come down. And then as it got lower and lower and lower, then it got bigger and brighter. And then it shot toward them and then spun off and did this kind of zigzag thing, kind of like a UFO. It would be a UFO, unidentified flying object, but not, you know, maybe not something that's being piloted by aliens. It's just a ball of light. But then he was outside taking the trash out and walking the dogs and smoking his vape, whatever. And they saw this. He saw this weird thing like crouched behind the shed. And he was like, "What is that?" And so this thing kind of got up and got down on all fours and ran into the weeds, you know, which were adjacent to his property because the neighbors over on that side didn't cut their grass. And so he says, "I don't know what it was, but it made a weird noise, you know, like a grunt. And it was shaped kind of like a bear, but he could have sworn it had horns." So he saw it, but she never saw anything like that. She just had the weird electrical stuff going on. There was nearly a fire, you know, and just stuff like that, you know, like the coffee pot exploded, or you know, a coffee maker, or whatever. What else did she say? Oh, there was the windows were all open. Like she woke up and all the windows were open and the screens were torn off. And 2 of the pets were missing, which is sad that she never found. Two of the cats were gone. Never saw them again. And so they went looking everywhere for the cats, couldn't find them. Eventually, the dog disappeared, but happy ending for that. The neighbors about 2 miles down the road had the dog and didn't know whose dog it was. And these people, they didn't speak English, but they saw the dog outside when her brother was riding his bike with his girlfriend, and that dog came running up, and they're like, "Oh." And then they were like, "No, doggy belong to us. No, you pay. You pay." And then he pulled out a gun. He's like, "Nah, suck a bitch. You ain't doing that." And then he put the gun, and then they ran inside. And I'm joking. I'm playing it. So stupid. So anyways, he told the guy, he was like, "Hey, you know, this is our dog." And the guy's like, "Oh, okay." The dog, finally, they got somebody who could translate. They were like, the dog just showed up. So something was going on that terrified their animals, but the cats were never seen again. And these were not scaredy cat cats. They would move in and out. They would go in and out of the house, you know. So they would always be around, but they were gone. And they started noticing like the neighbors were having problems, like their chicken coop was raided by something. So whatever was there, it was brought back, but it was messing with these 2 different people. But the crazy thing is Copeland, what is that highway going? I should know this by heart. But it goes from Taylor to Elgin. What is it called? Not Old Copeland Road. Old Copeland Road's got some weird stuff too, but I'm talking about from Copeland, and just look it up.
From Taylor to Elgin? Oh, that's 290.
No, that's not 290. From Taylor to Elgin. You're talking about from Elgin to Houston. That's 290.
Let's see.
But that road, it goes Copeland, it goes Elgin, Copeland, because it ends at Copeland in Elgin, and it goes left or right on 290. But it's Copeland, Taylor, then Granger, or Circleville, if you count that as a town, and then Bartlett, and then it just keeps going. And then it goes on to Temple. It's like the back way to Temple. But that road, we've had some weird stuff been reported on that road. So Copeland, though, there again, where she lived was not
95.
95. There you go. It's not that far from, you know, Taylor, but it is a little bit of a stretch to go all the way to the other side of Bartlett, kind of out in the country where he was at. I mean, you're kind of going like, I mean, it's not like something is in the same area, but something obviously was simultaneously messing with them. But here's the interesting thing about this, and this is the big question. Why the hell did it pick those two people and no one else? Now, there was one other guy whose mother, and now she was a very sensitive person. She had been in a coma from a car wreck years before, and she died. Get this, and she came back. Her name's Susie. She came back right after being dead for like several minutes. I don't want to say it wrong. I don't know if it's 7 or 11 minutes, something like that. Several minutes.
Mhm.
I think it was like 11. She was dead for like she was, and they revived her, and then she was in a vegetative state. Well, they thought that she would be brain dead. No, she came back fully functional and just woke up one day like 4 months had gone by or 5 months, whatever. And so that was years and years ago. But then this woman had dreams, and she was seeing something, as you would say, Jason, bestial in her dreams. It was chasing her. And every time she would run behind this wood pile at her grandparents' place, and she would pick up a wood and try to fight it, but it would always overpower her. And then before it kills her, she'd wake up. Or as YouTube would say, unalived, before it unalived her. And so you're sitting there going like, okay, so that's 1, 2, 3 people. But then there was somebody who wasn't there, and that was that, I don't remember her name, but that girl's brother who was seeing some stuff. He saw it once. And then they saw the flying ball of light. He saw it once, but she saw it multiple times. And then I guess that was it. That would be it. But if you go down that rabbit hole, and it all started with them seeing this bouncing ball of light by the cemetery. And then bam, 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 weird stuff's happening. So you got to wonder, like, okay, like what are we dealing with? Like, what is that? Now, eventually this thing just kind of subsided. Like Zach started going to church. She already did, the other girl. She went to a different church. And he got real involved with the church, and he began to go to prayer group, and he went to a men's study group, and eventually got married, and the rest is history. He's got little kids and stuff, but it just kind of faded away. And then he moved out of that trailer, but it followed him. The first place it followed him to was Round Rock when he got an apartment. And he moved all the way to Round Rock. And so I don't know how far is Round Rock from Granger Bartlett. I don't know. As the crow flies, it's probably, but so that, and then she moved, the girl that was having experiences, she moved to Georgetown, and I followed up with her, and she was like, it just kind of stopped once she moved. But for him, he saw it I guess it would be twice. He saw it 2 other times. Once his apartment where he was at was facing the pool, and he said he was in the pool, and he thought he saw this shadow kind of lurking around by the window, and he could see the curtains moving. And he had a friend that was there, and there again, he said we were drinking. I mean, but he said we weren't drunk. I mean, we could see it. And they were like, "Oh, dude, something's moving in your apartment." And they were like, "Oh, it's a ghost. It's that ghost." And they were messing with him. And so he goes in there. There's nothing there. And then, but that night of that incident, he had a dream about it. And in the dream, this thing had grabbed him and was like trying to force him to go with it, like to fly, wherever he was trying to go. And then he woke up and he was falling into the bed. And I said, "You were falling back into your body."
Yeah, I that's exactly like my experience.
Yeah. So you have that weird connection there. Now everybody's like, "Oh yeah, Dogman is just a flesh and blood thing. Just runs around, chases people." You know what I'm saying? Wears a purple shirt, runs real fast. You know what I'm talking about, right? No, I don't. I don't acknowledge that because I know that there is more to it. I had dreams about what I saw for years. Now it can be argued that they were just dreams. I wasn't. You remember the scarecrow story where the kid he brought that back, that straw, and it was in his bed. That was a Halloween show we did 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
That dude's story freaked me out because he actually brought something out of that dream state. Like I never brought anything back, thank God. I didn't have a Dogman tooth, no hair. I didn't wake up with saliva on my face, nothing like nothing. I was just.
It makes me think that for a long time after my shadow person experience, I had, and I still have them once in a while, I have a recurring dream of a big black dog wolf thing. It's usually in a graveyard and it's on top of a hill, and it's howling, and I'm like running for my life. You know, not a graveyard I recognize or know or anything like that. Just like metaphorically a graveyard with a hill. Looks, you know, like I'm in a movie set or something like that. But I've had that recurring dream for years since that. I don't know if that's related to Dogman or not. But the big black dog or black shuck, I have a dream about it. That's why I've always been curious about it. I have to get going here soon because someone's checking in on me. Because I'm gonna watch a movie with one of them. The other one's passed out. But I think the interesting point you make is like I said, you know, it picked 2-3 people out of maybe 6 out of the original counter, and one person, not 2 people there weren't even a part of the original counter. But does it pick people because of something in their bloodline? Is what I wonder sometimes. Because if you know, you think about demonic possession and these things indwelling in people or feeding energy off of people, because I felt this thing was trying to feed off of me in a sense that it can only maybe do it off of certain people and their energy. Maybe, and that's why it went after the sister's brother, you know, or showed itself to them, and the mother has it because they are targets because of their bloodlines.
Yeah. Do you feel like what targeted you was bloodline related?
I have no clue on that, honestly. I mean, I really don't. I mean, I've had a lot of weird stuff. You know, I wouldn't know much about my dad's side of the family. You know, I got a great grandfather was Irish and a great grandmother that was Cherokee. That's the most I know from there. You know, on that side of the family, I don't. And on my mom's side, we have mainly German. You know, so I don't know. But it makes me wonder, like, or is there just certain? Maybe it's not even genetics. Maybe it's something to do with your past lives, or I don't know. Something that makes them target you over other people if you step into the you know, the lion's den or the hornet's nest of it all. You know, it's like you got to first find the nest they're hanging out in, and then they latch onto you. Mm-hmm. And you hear these kind of stories from people all the time. You know, and usually it's like a graveyard or somewhere like that. You know, mine wasn't a graveyard, but people had died there. You know, so I don't know. That, you know, there's a reason they target certain people over others. Like, I was out at a party with a bunch of people. This thing showed itself to me in the woods that night, and to my friend, and at that same time, around that same period that night. So it targeted us out of a group of 50 people that were probably out there.
Wow.
You know, why us? And eventually it faded away for my friend. He had Reiki done, and he thought that's what helped. For me, it was a night of hell when this thing really violently attacked me. And you know, I called out to God. I humbled myself before God. You know, and said, I screwed up. Help me, God, please. Oh, yeah. You know, I'm sorry. You know, that's what saved me. You know, but you know, why did it target us out of 50 or so people? You know, because it drew us back out there. That's what happened. A year later, me and him went out there with his current girlfriend at that time. You know, so why is there something with us that it, you know, targeted?
Well, if the bloodline matters, then that would go a long way to explaining why, like historically, certain like elite families have been so obsessed with with preserving their own bloodline to the extent that they're willing to inbreed. You know, like the Habsburgs, for example,
right.
What is so special about
people.
preserving your bloodline that you're willing to take that trade-off where right. your offspring is going to have all these like deformities or genetic deficiencies?
I mean, they knew back then. They knew in the Middle Ages. They knew then that inbreeding could cause this. They knew that. It wasn't like they didn't know or understand that. They understood that. They didn't care. They did it anyways. Why? You know, the David Icke theory is that because they're reptilians, they have to keep the bloodline. Well, there might be some truth to that. The reason they have to keep that bloodline is think about if somebody's demonically possessed. They're sick. They're ill. Like under a full demonic attack, they're ill. I'm not, you know, I've seen some of the footage. I've seen people are pretty ill and sick. Look at, you know, it's not the right name. The movie they did. I mean, the girl died in real life, you know, from just total malnutrition and all. Oh God,
exorcism movie.
Yeah, it is, but it's based off a true case that happened. I think
Emily Rose, I think.
Yeah, but it wasn't Emily Rose. I can't think of the name.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, somebody's getting possessed by this thing. Whatever. Obviously, it ain't working out. you know what I'm saying? Like they're sick. They're not right. But what if, for a person that has the right bloodline, they can handle that power. They can handle that demon, and you would have no clue that it's inside of them because they're the perfect vessel.
Yeah.
Because their genetics and heredity give them that ability. And if these things are floating around looking for new hosts, they're going to go, oh, that person looks like they could handle my power.
Yeah. Maybe that's why, like, to some people, instead of like it being like a full-on like a horror movie possession,
The perfect possession. That's what
yeah,
I
yeah,
call it.
like instead of that, they'll have like it'll be there as like a passenger, you know, maybe because
Yeah,
they can
the
actually
dark
handle
passenger.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's there, and maybe when they give this, they are able to let this thing have so full enough power that it can manifest and change. They can shapeshift with it because they are the perfect vessel.
like a symbiote.
And then you'd have secret societies that would protect this knowledge and track all these bloodlines so they could find the next person and indwell certain entities. Maybe entities they've preserved, like they pass this entity on when the father dies to the grandson or whatever. You know, they ritual and all.
Yeah.
See,
I
folks,
mean, and
this is
Malachi
why-
Martin called them families had familiars. Remember that? Sorry, I was
Yeah.
going to point that one last thing out. That these families would have that they call it a familiar, a family spirit that protects them. You know, what is that?
This is why I like Jason Bland.
Yeah.
He's one of a handful of podcasts that I always watch him on Sunday. I don't always comment, but I have you in there. And like, you know, I used to like to listen to Jason and play Age of Empires. I could play because if I start playing, and no offense to anybody else, but I play some of these other people's, and I'm just like, I'm playing, and I'm like, you know, I gotta stop, and because you're trying to kick some kid's ass from Australia,
Yeah.
you know, some guy over there talking trash. Oh, I'm whipping your ass, you Yankee. And like, oh yeah, what's up? And they're like, hold on, I got to change the podcast. It sucks. I don't have to do that with Jason because he's got great guests and he asks very pertinent questions.
Yeah.
Like right now, what you just added to the soup, that paranormal soup, you just added the spice. I mean, there you go, folks. I mean, that's why people like him are important. You should have a lot bigger following, Jason. I'm telling you. And, you do. You do a good job.
I was telling my wife tonight. She's like, "When does he go live?" I go, "Josh goes live a lot." Like,
Yeah.
I was like, "That's why he deserves the following he has." Jason does Sunday nights, and that's about it because I don't get too many free nights to do that. I'm on staycation this week, and then I was gonna be on longer tonight, but like I said, I promised my one son we'd watch a movie since I don't have
what
school
you gotta
tomorrow.
do,
We get all
man?
get to
Family
stay in.
man.
So I am gonna go do that now. Thank you for letting me come on. I wish I could stay longer and talk more about this because it is something that's been fascinating me a lot lately.
I thought you would be intrigued.
Yeah. You know, balls of light, that's another thing. Orbs of light like this and these manifestations that happen around them is super fascinating to me. Like, what are they? You know, is that just the soul of this thing, the energy, the powerful energy of some being that exists here in our realm and is just looking for the next viable host, maybe?
They're able to travel, right? That's the thing. That's how they travel. Maybe next Sunday you could come on, or sometime, and just talk. We could talk and have you as the guest, and we could reiterate some of this and go into more detail before you go on to your show.
Yeah, this Sunday is my first day back at work, so I'll be working before I have to get on my show. So we'll see, but
whenever you're ready,
we'll have another Sunday. I will have another weekend off here in probably a month or so. And I'll let you know, see if I can come on a Sunday before mine.
For sure, Jason. So I'm gonna let you run then.
All right,
Okay.
man.
Thank
Happy
you for
Halloween,
coming on.
everyone.
Happy Halloween.
Happy
dude.
Halloween. Good
Appreciate
night,
it.
Jason.
Good night.
Have a good night, guys.
So that Jason Bland, I mean, always brings the A game. He guy's so smart. We have the smartest audience, smartest friends. Everybody just, it's crazy. So, folks, tell me what you think in the audience here. I mean, is this why though? I mean, that's the thing that keeps you up at night thinking. Like, why would it go two different people and ignore the other people?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it didn't.
Maybe they just didn't notice it,
Yeah.
so it got pissed and quit.
I mean, maybe that's like the thing. Maybe it's like a probing thing where it tests everybody, but the people who do notice it are the ones that's like, oh, perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, because it makes sense. It's like not everybody's going to see it because it's more likely that stuff is happening all the time than it is that you're just missing everything.
Well, if you look at what happened to you when you were at Bradshaw or at what was it called? Brackenridge. You were Bradshaw.
Mhm.
Bradshaw. Now, Brackenridge is the north. So you were there, and you saw that weird entity. So how do we know that other people didn't see it, and maybe the people that moved into that place, they've had a bunch of weird stuff happen? I've thought about it because we're driving through there one time. I was driving to San Marcos with Nelly, and I thought we ought to just go by there and say, hey, knock on the door. Hey, this is a very weird question, but has a demonic girl been haunting your house? I mean,
Not even that. Just
We
hey,
saw her here.
we saw it here 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We just wondered if it was. We're just
hey,
checking out.
while they were building this house, I saw demons and stuff roaming around. Anyway, gotta go.
It's a little kid. They're like, what? Yeah. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid.
Yeah, your
Tell your
house
mom
is
and dad
haunted by a
that-
dead girl, kid.
Yeah,
Good luck.
Yeah, your mom and dad need to really.
Happy Halloween, by the way, kid.
See ya. Merry Christmas.
Mhm.
You know.
Or like you show up and it's
So
his
weird.
birthday.
Because if you're in tune with it. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
Oh no, I said you show up to tell him that it's his birthday. He answers the door with a little party hat on.
Just tell them
Just
to leave.
drop that on him.
There was a girl that looked like the Grudge mixed with the Ring. Okay. And all I'm saying is it's a demon, and it will probably eat your soul. Happy birthday. Give him a $5 gift card to
Yeah.
Starbucks. I don't drink coffee. Well, that's
Yeah.
all I got in my wallet. See ya.
Which one of these bedrooms is that one? Yeah, I saw her in that
That is
closet.
where we saw it.
Yeah.
We all just walk in with the
Yeah.
camera. We're a paranormal team. We got the paranormal
Yeah.
gear. We're a paranormal team. We just want to see if the demon has left.
Hey,
Act like
kid,
you
what kind of
belong.
monster-
It's
Monsters
still
have
here
you
for
seen?
sure. We're gonna go. Bye.
Just
What
show up in that
monsters
house.
haunt you? Yeah, that's the one we know of. That's the one that's real.
Just show up like acting all official, like we belong. Sir, step back. This is official paranormal.
Official paranormal
business.
roundtable business. El Kukoi, you say? Yes, that is what we saw. Is that what terrifies you? Absolutely what we saw. They're like, did you see it? No, but it terrified me. My godson saw it, and he doesn't lie unless he's really stoned. Was he
I was
stoned that
there.
night? No,
He
was
doesn't
sober.
lie, unless he does.
He doesn't lie till he does.
Yeah.
And then
You
who
gotta
knows?
believe me. That would make me like a liar, and that's bad. And as a good Christian
Mhm.
boy, I know that's
Yes,
not
well,
good.
I'll tell you what. You don't lie about the paranormal stuff, but you definitely lie about other things.
That's how you do it.
Wow.
You got to have your
You gotta
limits.
be like, were you asleep on the job? You're like, no. No, why would you accuse me of that? You're always accusing me of doing stuff I'm doing.
I wasn't asleep on the job. I am asleep on the job now, but I wasn't. So I don't appreciate you accusing me.
What part of the job?
I wasn't in the past. I just
part
am
are you
now.
talking about?
Which one? Are we talking about the before the job,
Yeah.
at the job, during the job, later on the job? What reality? Because there's alternate
I mean,
realities here.
realistically,
No, I
what
went
job
home
could I
and
be
slept,
talking
and then I
about?
came back to the job.
Wow. There you go. Good way to get out of it. I never slept on the job. I went home and did that shit.
Yeah.
I came back
I
2
knew
hours later.
better.
The lumber was gone. And I don't know who these people are, but we need to find them because they're getting me in trouble.
And by
Assholes.
we, I mean the police.
Who we report things to, and they've been defunded. So good luck. They're like Dumb and Dumber. That's an IOU for that. That's $11,000 worth of lumber there. Let me keep on to that. I want to hang on to that one. That one there, 2,800. Not as big, but I'd still hang on to those. Once I hit the lottery, I'm planning on paying you back.
They send an officer out there. He just goes, "Yep, gonna be a cold case."
Sounds like my brother as a detective would come out there and be like, "I'm drunk, and I can't help you,
Just go out there standing with
but
his
I
hand.
can do the robot." And then he just leaves. Okay, all right.
No, he just shows up like in sweatpants and a wife beater and flip flops and stands around with his hands on his hips like Carl.
Like, oh, from
Yeah, when it goes in here.
He opens
Lot
a
of gold
police
to-
Yeah,
cruiser.
it goes in my freaking pool.
Just a bunch of beer cans falling out of his police cruiser. and
Yeah.
stuff.
he opens the door. Oh, I didn't even remember drinking that one.
Natural light,
Oh,
good stuff, good
Those
stuff.
Nickies pile up.
Steel Reserve 211. I don't even remember
Beer.
buying
I
that
thought
one.
I was drinking liquor.
At Mad Dog 2020.
Bought that for
How'd that
someone
get
for
there?
Christmas. I thought it was a choo-choo train.
Mhm.
They must have drank a lot that day. I thought I was Lightning McQueen.
I didn't even know they made Night Train anymore.
Night Train. Cobra. Where's Lando Calrissian selling the King Cobra?
Mhm.
So we have other things. So the parking garage demon thing is really intriguing. Because you have these beings from beyond that are I mean, they're pretending to be, if that's real. And then the party in Chicago, they're pretending like that's, they're. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it could be. It could be. I mean, but then it could not be too. I mean, it could be these people remember it weird because everybody was drunk. But I always look back on that case where the people were on a substance, bless you, and they saw this Catman looking thing trying to wave them down. They had no prior knowledge of there being any kind of creature out there. But when they told me where they were at, I said, oh my gosh, because if you were to look at a map, you would have about half a dozen sightings out there. Now, most of those are older, but there was one that happened in 2019 that I believe on that particular county road is the most recent. And it wasn't much. It was just a guy who was renting a trailer out there when he was doing construction. And I found this one out from the guy who worked out. They're building Samsung.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And we know a couple people that are out there working, and one of them is really funny. He's just like, these people. I'm not going to get into it. They're like, just build this. Where are the blueprints?
Yeah.
We don't have them. Just go and look at the one in Austin and build it.
Here's a measuring tape and a pencil and some notebook paper.
Get
Make
it done
happen.
and get it done by November. They're like, this is August. Exactly. You got thousands and thousands of square foot to build. So this one guy, he was telling us, about all this weird chicanery, and he says, "Dude, you do that show?" And he listened to the show, and he comes back. He says, "My friend Stan used to live. He rented a trailer out in the country outside of Taylor." And he says, dude, he told me a weird story of a Black Panther. My ears perked up. There's people tell you, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't mind. I'll be at the gym and I'll be working out, and Anthony's seen it 100 times. People come up and be like, "Hey, I got a ghost story for you," and it's like, I saw this thing run behind me in the mirror. And they wait for you to be impressed, and you're like, oh really? What did it look like? It was black.
Oh no, I couldn't really see it.
And what else happened? Nothing. That was it. Can you put it on the show? I'll come on and tell it. And you're like, yeah, we'll get it on. We'll eventually, once the show's doing really bad, we'll start doing that. But no offense if somebody has it, but it's like, if you have something that small, don't hesitate to tell me, because even if it doesn't go on the show, it's data. Okay. And what I mean by data is you can put it down in the computer, and then you can go back and look and see, oh, there was a sighting in that area that corroborates. Somebody else saw this. But don't be upset or frustrated because it doesn't have the kick to put on a show. Now, we could do a show where we just go through hundreds of little short accounts. Person saw something run across the road. Person B saw something run across the road. Person C saw something run across the road. And then it'll show you, hey, there is a history of something going on over here. But people don't really want to hear stories about that. Okay. People want to hear like what down in Mexico, in Candelaria, or south of Candelaria, like what was going on with that brujo.
Mm-hmm.
The Duende King. People want to hear stuff like that because those are the stories that really fascinate, and you can make it into an hour-long episode, but that doesn't mean that not to send the story, because I need it for data, right? And so sometimes people will be like, "Hey, I want to come on your show and talk," and you're like, "Yeah, that'd be cool, but there's some criteria that has to be met, for certain standards." And a lot of times people don't have they don't have a lot to talk about. So they're just going to sit there. And what's going to happen is we're going to be accused of talking too much, and the person's not getting, but you got to understand something, folks. I've talked to these people, or at the very least emailed with them. And I usually don't have somebody come on if I haven't talked to them. And I don't like getting attacked by the audience saying, well, you didn't let this guy talk, blah, blah, blah. That's because they don't have a huge thing to say. So we made that mistake of bringing people on that were not, or they didn't talk well, and then they get lambasted in the comment section, and you're just like, geez Louise, thought it would go differently. I'm just full transparency here. Okay?
Yeah. I've had to delete quite a few comments of
nasty
like people
comments
being,
about people.
mean to the guests. Like, dude, chill out.
Yeah, and so what's happening now though is this guy in the point where people want me to tell the story.
Hmm.
They want me to tell it because I do have an ability to put it together, and the people will just ask me to tell it, or the guests, I mean the audience wants to hear me tell it because I make it flow and I'll make it like the way it's supposed to be. But because they'll tell you the story and they'll do this Quentin Tarantino thing. They'll start with the middle and then they'll go, okay, hold on, let me back up, and then they'll go to the beginning. Then they'll go back to the end, and then they'll go back to the middle, and you're like, where's the middle? Where's the end? Where's the beginning? So you have to take the notes and then put it all together and make it sound, palatable to an audience. And that's a skill, and it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. People think that I come and just plop my butt here and talk for 3 hours, and they literally have said that. You don't do nothing, you lazy fat shit. You just sit behind a computer looking at the screen and you talk for 3 hours. Oh, that's all you do. Bullshit, blah, blah, blah. I ain't giving you no money. Do you know how many hours we put into this? You know how many hours we put into this? This is a full-time thing. If you're going to do 3 hours, hold on. If you're going to do 3 hours, and then we were doing, dropping the 1 hour pods too.
Mm-hmm.
Every 2 to 3 hours, it's a good day of work because you have to get the stories, and then you have to be able to disseminate the information and make it palatable. And I get real sick of it. That's one of the reasons why we quit in August, because I was just like, F this, man. You get these people who are never happy. They're never satisfied. Then I'm constantly getting attacked by these morons, these crazy people who are just out of their damn minds. And they just have a vendetta, and there's nothing you can do to appease them, and you're not going to. So, to hell with it. Just let them have it.
This is so easy. Then, why isn't everybody doing it?
Yeah.
It's stupid. It's like, oh, you have an easy way to make money where you don't do anything. Well, then why aren't you doing it? Yeah, if it's that simple, well, then maybe it's not that simple.
Yeah. And so that's what we end up, you have to so when somebody gives me a story now, here's the thing. Somebody tells you, hey, I saw this quick, brief encounter. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. But we also have to be able to, disseminate, and put it together with other data. And so this guy, Stan, he was inside of a trailer out there in the middle of nowhere, and he saw this thing, which I thought it was a black cat. And I didn't bother to follow up. But then a couple weeks go by, and I see the guy at the gym. He said, did you talk to my friend? And I said, no, I didn't. And honestly, I was kind of embarrassed. I didn't remember even what his friend's name was. And there was another guy named Giorgio, but this was a different guy. He was a Hispanic guy. Stan was a white guy. And he said, his name's Stan. He's from Arkansas. So when I talked to Stan, this is the interesting thing. He had done work in Falk. Mm-hmm. Falk Monster. Mm-hmm. Right? And of course, that's Lyle Blackburn's wheelhouse, and so having discussed it with him too, okay, is this, whatever, he saw a reddish brown creature take something off of his neighbor's porch. Now, the neighbor being they're in the country.
Yeah.
But you can see the neighbor's house. Yeah. Like us. They're not right next to us. Mm-hmm. They're down the road, but you can see it. And he said it grabbed something, and I thought, oh, this guy's stealing package. And I look, and there's this brownish, reddish brown thing. And now Lyle had told me that he had seen something when he was out in the woods looking. Then when you go back and you listen to these people from Falk tell their stories, there's this reddish brown creature that pops up over and over again. Now, some of these are very short little whatever. But then, hey, Abe, how you doing? So then you get these weird encounters, I don't know what to make of it. But the guy, he volunteered that. He said, look, I've seen a creature one time before. He's like, but this was unlike anything. He says, dude, talk to my friend. He goes, he's seen a Bigfoot. When he said that, I thought, okay, well, this is what this is. And I thought he had seen a Bigfoot and a Black Panther. I thought they were both same area. No. Turns out the Bigfoot was in Falk or near there when he was working out there. Well, it wasn't like right. It wasn't right there, but it was on the fringe of that area. And then he tells me, he says, "Dude, when I was living, out in the country, and he told me where he was at, not far from where these black cats, whatever they were, and these aren't black cats. That's what we thought at first. No, they're standing up.
Yeah.
Okay." And he says, "Look, I saw this thing looking in my window." And I thought, Black Panther, how tall is your window? And he says, no, this thing was on 2 legs. And I was like, what is that? And he says, dude, this thing, he goes, it was looking at me. He goes, and it had yellowy eyes. He's like, and at one point, it must have heard a noise or something as it turned its head and looked like, and it was watching something. He goes, I regret my window being open and the blinds being up. He goes, and I'm laying there and my feet are about a foot away from the window. So get this. This is a scary, scary story. Like this would scare the hell out of you if you were, especially somebody, if you're not from the country too, you're not accustomed to noises and things like that. Some jackass trying to say, "Oh, think Josh Turner's from the country." Bitch, I'm from the country. All right. Come to my house. I'll show you. Okay. Come to my house and see what happens. All right. From the country. All right. I was raised out there 15 years, and then I moved into the barrio, which was culture shock for me. I was used to run around barefooted. And I talk like this. I don't talk like that no more because people made fun of me. And I had to learn to talk like people who want to have a job in the city. And unfortunately, people are very biased toward country people at times, just like country people can be biased toward city people. Country people are like, he's from the city. He's a city boy. And then the city people are like, he's a country mouse. Look at this goofy guy. When all that stuff was going on, the riots, that guy was arguing with me. He's like, I looked at your profile. You're from Taylor. You're a hick. Rah, rah, rah. Maybe, but I know how to survive. I can tell you that. And when the apocalypse comes, whatever you think it is, I'm going to have a leg up because I'm going to know how to do certain things that you don't.
Because you can't hold us down. You can't make us run. With them old boys raised on shotguns.
That's right. And we all were raised like that.
Skin a buck, run a trout line. Something.
That get a bug, run a trout line, country boy against a ride, whatever. And so I am adapted to both. I think that you should be well-rounded. But this guy, imagine now, even if you're from the sticks, he said, dude, I'm looking at this thing and I'm seeing it by the light of the moon. And it's a foot from my feet. He goes, and then I see this hand come up and I'm thinking, oh my gosh. He goes, I see a hand. He goes, there's a hand. This is not a paw. This is a panther-headed creature, the biggest panther head you could imagine. And I asked him, I said, let me ask you this, Stan, how big of the head? He goes, take your big fat head and double it. I said, geez, tough crowd. No, he didn't say that. He did not say that. No, he just said, he goes, it just had a big old fat head. He goes, it was big. He goes, and at first he thought it was kind of like a, the way he described it was like if you were to take a pit bull, their ears are clipped, they go back, He kind of thought it was that, but then he started looking at it and he goes, this is a panther, this is a cat, like a panther type being. He said, and the eyes were yellow. And he said, by the light of the moon, he goes, and I see it lift up, and he kind of like was judging the screen.
Yeah. And
then he said, it kind of made like a hiss noise, like that. And he says, dude, I stood perfectly still. I laid there perfectly still. And he's like, and I was just about to say, how in the hell am I going to get out of this? Like, what am I going to do? And he's like, I have a shotgun by the door. I have a pistol on the other side. But he goes, I had to roll myself because I'm a rough sleeper. My wife gets mad. Of course, he was working. He's here working. Right? Of course, he didn't stay after that. He went and got another place over there by Hutto. So I don't blame him. And he said he was there. And he goes, dude, I did something really stupid. He goes, I decided that I would jump up and scream and try to scare it away and then reach for my 45. And he's like, and so I laid there and I counted to 3 and I was like 1, 2, and then nothing. I just laid there.
See, that was his mistake. You got to get
Yeah.
up and start peeing on your floor and on your bed. And
Show him who's boss.
you
Right?
mark your territory.
The dominance, dude.
Like,
I'm
dude,
telling you. Every
I
time a
claimed
cat
it, dude,
person
fair
has
and
come
square.
to,
It's
yeah.
my pee.
And
You know,
Tony, you know this the other day.
I
We
did it
were
in my
doing
room.
patrol and that cat man came and we peed on him.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean,
Right,
what
but
else
behind
would you do?
He was at one of our. You know,
I mean, I peed all over my room.
Oh.
So ain't no cat people or Dogman gonna
yeah,
come
he was in the
there.
trash by the hotel, and me and Tony just got out. He went on one side, one on the other, and we just urinated on the
Mhm.
trash can. And he was like, "Oh," and then that was it. He didn't do anything. He melted. He
Yeah.
died. We killed him.
I
I
mean,
gotta
every
finish
day I
peeing on the
wake
rest of
up
the
and I
house.
just
You just take banjo like a weapon.
Yeah.
You're like, do we have a problem? I don't think so. I don't think so. You know what? What's up? What's up? Keep it up. Keep it up. I don't think so. So, but back to the seriousness of this. He's laying there, and this thing is just, right there with the screen. And he says, dude, it just pushed the screen and it kind of broke a little bit, and he's like, there's nothing but woods behind it. And he's like, and he's still going like, what in the hell am I looking at? And he kept on trying to double guess, himself, second guess himself. And finally he says, I did what I was planning on doing. I just said, I'm going to count again. And he said, and I said one, and I said it out loud, and this thing's ears perked up. He goes, then I jumped up and I turned the light on. He goes, and then I jumped up so fast that my foot, he's like, my right foot got caught in the sheet and I just fell. Like I got up, turned the light on, and then was like, boom, onto the. And he's like, and it happened so quickly. He goes, and then I look, and this thing was like arms coming into the room. And he goes, and I saw, and he's like, Mr. Wolf, call me Mr. Wolf. I think he thought that was my last name. He kept calling me Mr. Wolf. But and no offense, but I don't like being called that. But anyway, he said it put its right arm down, it looked like, and it was coming through the window. He goes, and after that, it was just kind of a blur. He goes, and I grabbed my shotgun, it was right there. And he goes, didn't know what it would do, if anything at all. So he blasts, like he shoots. And he goes, dude, and I can't believe I didn't even hit this thing. It didn't even, he said, maybe some of the buckshot might have, grazed it or something. It just knocked a hole in the trailer that I'm renting. Mm-hmm. He goes, and it wasn't a dumpy trailer. It was a pretty decent one, but I put a big hole in it. And he goes, but that was enough for this thing to crawl back out, and then it made this roaring noise and then it was gone. But he said the next day he was like, he didn't sleep. He went into the living room. He didn't sleep. He called his sister. And I said, well, was she close by? He goes, no, she was in Missouri. Didn't do much good. He goes, but I just to hear a comforting voice. Our father had died the summer before. And so this was in the summertime. And he said, dude, I was just there and the windows, there was no AC. It was broken. And we know what that's like. Mm-hmm. And so we were sitting there, and he goes, and we're talking. And she's like, what is that noise? And he didn't hear it. And this is another weird thing. Like when you start to think, oh, this is a flesh and blood being, a creature that's crawling through the window. This is exactly what it is, right? Absolutely. Then, she's like, what is that noise? I hear this screaming noise. And she heard it on the phone like a screech. She said it was so bad that she took the phone away from her. And I didn't talk to her. This is what he told me. And so Niall, the guy that gave me his information, he's a pretty cool guy, but he's like, I don't know what to believe. He's like, I believe Stan. He seems like, I've known him for years. We've worked together, the same company. But he's like, I don't know what to believe. He goes, he claims that he saw Bigfoot, but he talked about that years ago, and then he never said anything else until this happened. Now, is there a connection? I don't know. Maybe it was just by chance he saw it. But I told him, I said, when you saw that thing pick up whatever it was on the other property, out there near Falk, I was like, do you feel like you were seeing something that other people couldn't see? Now, here's the interesting thing about that. Those people had a ring cam. This was not a long time. It was like 2020 or 19, something like that. Mm-hmm. Like the year before, 2018. And he said they had like one of those ring cams, and there was nothing there. It was like a blur. you know?
Yeah.
So a lot of times when these things get caught on camera, the cloaking, you know what I'm talking about? The cloaking,
Hmm.
like it comes into play because they're not being seen. Like people aren't saying like, oh yeah, I saw it straight on. Like it looked like a werewolf, you know, or Bigfoot, you know. It's like this blurry thing, but the color was there. It was like a reddish brown blur. You know, it wasn't completely cloaked like the predator looking. So that's interesting. But then when he said that this thing it was in the trailer, and then the morning he said I got in the truck. He goes, I took off. I never went back. He goes, I took my clothes in a box, my toiletries, and he goes, I left my sheets, everything else, the dishes. I didn't give a crap. I never went back to that trailer. And I called the guy and I said, hey, you know, this happened to me, blah, blah, blah. And the interesting thing about that, when he told me this, okay, and he said the guy did not act surprised. The guy was not like, you son of a bitch, you shot my trailer, you know, like, what did you do? You know, he was pissed. He was like, oh, you shot the hole, you know, oh man. But he wasn't like really concerned. Like, I guess the guy knew, you know, like maybe there was something there. And he goes, well, is this the only thing you saw? The only time you saw it did you see it before? Like he was asking him that. And so Stan asked him, he said, does it come around? I mean, does it happen before? And he goes, I don't know, man. People see things. Kind of like that scene in Wanderlust with where he's like, cut to in the lake.
Yeah.
You know, what's his name? What's that guy's name?
Jordan Peele.
Jordan Peele. He's like, and the other guy, what's the guy played Ant-Man?
Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd was like, how did it get in the lake? He goes, yeah, I was just driving and, you know, it was just in the lake. Just driving along and cut to in the lake. He goes, okay, let's not cut to. How did it get in the lake? You know, I was just driving. You know, it's like this is what the guy was doing, and it kind of reminded me of that. I said, so this guy's playing around. He knows something's there because some former tenant must have seen something. And he just said, look, you're gonna have to pay, you're gonna lose your deposit, and obviously you're gonna have to pay for the damages. He said, I don't give a crap. So he goes, I stayed at a hotel with one of the other workers, you know. And then I got a place over by Hutto, and then that was it. I don't, you know, it's whatever. But when he told me the area where he was at, I said, dude, that's where those are. That's a little, that's not in a cluster, you know, but it's on the fringes of where I believe the territory is. Because if you think about it, we haven't really gotten stories. Okay, if you go to 95, talking about the highway you looked up, say you go to Copeland, you know where old man the Kennedy Aussie, there's a ghost story behind that too. The old Kennedy place. There's a haunting there. Supposedly old man Aussie shot old man Kennedy, and everybody talks about it. It's the haunted hill. But you don't ever get any of the black cat stories out there. You get black panthers that look like black panthers. But on the other side of the highway, and then you go further back down in there past Copeland, and you go from there to Nowak up into Lexington. People will occasionally report black panthers, and sometimes they report them as looking man-like, walking on hind legs. One guy near Lexington said one of them climbed a tree like a man. It looked like a man. And so, you know, then you kind of wonder, like, what are we dealing with? You know? So anyway, there's that. That to me would be one of the most horrific. I don't know what I would do. If you see this thing coming into your house and you're all alone in the middle of nowhere. He said it was so far out there. Like you could scream and ain't nobody going to hear you.
Yeah.
Next closest neighbor was like half a mile up the road. There was nobody around and surrounded by woods. You're just going to be whatever that is, dinner, you know. But so anyways, what do y'all think before we move on? We're going to move on to the next one, you know.
Well, whenever I mean, like this is going back to the previous story, but I had a thought on it that whenever that cat, the Black Panther thing on two legs was like waving those people down, and it was either you or Jason who said that it was probably meaning not to appear as that to those people, but because they were like drinking or on drugs, that they were in an altered state of mind, so that they saw it. But like, isn't it that like if or well, I think that if you're in an altered state of mind or during periods of like intense physical exertion, that like whatever whatever energies that are put out there that are meant to like manipulate your perception, it's like it doesn't work. It's like it's cutting off that it's cutting that thing off from you to where like you see what's actually there.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, like the veil.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason too why people, see the veil is it thins in Halloween, and people say, "Well, people see things at Halloween." Yeah, because there's no veil. There really isn't. I mean, if you have the eye, you will see these things.
Mm-hmm. Like I noticed, like when we're in the gym in particular, and I'm just like tired and exhausted, but I just keep going. Like mentally, I feel like I think on another level, and like my perceptions of the world around me are a little bit deeper, or at the very least, like the potential to perceive things on a deeper level is there, but it doesn't last. I mean, like you have to be someone, I think, like you said, who has who has just like that gift naturally to see through the veil, or you'd have to be like on hallucinogens all the time or something.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have that, you can't like constantly be working out or constantly be on drugs.
Well, when you work out and you're releasing all that energy,
Mm-hmm.
you can't. It's like, to me, people don't understand this, and I don't want to get too far into the esoteric, whatever. But they can't read your mind. They can't feel your thoughts because that energy is so.
It's like it's spiritually cathartic too, as well as physically and mentally.
It is.
Like on every level, it's like there's a release of I guess like negativity or whatever of this energy that needs to come out in some form.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're really pushing yourself physically, I think it's coming out in like every form at the same time. And it's like all that energy coming out it overwhelms anything that's coming in to manipulate your perception of the world.
I'm sorry, I got to eat a protein bar.
Yeah, that's all right.
Or a candy bar.
I haven't eaten much today either.
These dummies are like, he's eating candy bars. No, I'm not.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna follow.
They're your bag of sweet.
I need it. That's annoying. I'm not gonna follow a grown man who's always eating candy. All right, I'm sorry.
I don't eat candy at all.
I can't.
None of us do. No.
I don't respect that. That is so annoying. Like just eating candy all the time. You're a grown man.
No, we're not big.
But you have to have something sweet all the time. Like that's just sickening, dude.
Like the Yum Box.
Or like if you're in your 30s and 40s and I see orange dust on your finger from Cheetos.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you're not a serious person. Just no. Grow up.
I eat Cheetos.
The candy part is the worst part of the Yum Boxes you get me.
Yeah. I noticed that you always eat the salty one, of course.
Yeah.
I just haven't eaten today.
Yeah, and you don't even eat the chocolate.
And I'm not even hungry. Whatever this is we all got, it makes you not hungry. But I got to eat something because I haven't eaten anything all day. I'll take that back. In order to take my vitamins, I had to eat 2 bites of that crap.
Oh, did you get it too? No.
And apparently I got it, man. Like I'm burning up right now.
You want me to turn it down more?
Yeah, I'm actually kind of little bit hot. Not terribly, but it's kind of warm.
I posted on my Facebook. It's like, it doesn't matter what you do it, whether you're tired, you're sick, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And people are taking credit for cursing me.
Stand in line.
You wish.
Like I said, I will respect you the moment you come up with some magic that makes you lose weight and have a healthy BMI and a healthy diet and cures your mental illnesses and just makes you like a normal person. Whatever sigils and signs and magic cauldrons and potions that you can brew to do that, then we can talk. Then it'll be like, hey, there's something to this. But it's never happened. Not one time.
Yeah, they never use it for anything. Now, people have asked me what happened. I was on another person's show, and I'm not going to get into it because I felt bad. But there was a self-proclaimed witch on there, and she was, let's be nice about it, she was being untruthful about certain things, in my opinion. And so
kind of apologetic about some stuff, you know.
I don't know her, but I got on there and I kind of challenged some of the things she was saying. And it wasn't necessary, but it kind of was, because a lot of my listeners were there. And I was kind of disappointed in a couple of them, really, because they kind of were, you know. And so it burned my ass what she was saying, because she was not correct. I mean, and she was being very, okay, first of all, she said, and I know women that are witches too, that do this. And I talked to one and I told her what she said. And she's like, that's absolute bullshit. Because what she said on that show was that a witch will never curse you frivolously.
Yeah.
And I said, holy shit, man.
That's a classic logical fallacy. It's a no true Scotsman thing. Like, oh, no true witch will do this or that, but yet here's like a bunch of them doing it. And then you point to them and you're like, well, what about her? Well, she's not a true such and such. He is not a true such and such, so they don't count. And
then trivialized people's encounters with vampires and werewolves, and basically said that a vampire was somebody back in the day that had rigor mortis, and whenever they opened the coffin, it would spring up with their hands like this. And I'm like, just a lot of bullshit. Okay, there was a lot of bullshit being said, and I just didn't say anything, but I just was like, you're not being truthful to these people. This is a disservice.
At a certain point, it's like if you're telling people something that's not correct, I mean, even if it's like out of ignorance, if you don't know any better, the end result could be that you're lulling those people into a false sense of security. They're letting their defenses down based on what you tell them. So that's why we have to be very careful giving people like spiritual advice, because we don't
tell them what happened to your mom. Just in a nutshell. You don't got to get into detail. But.
Yeah. So my mom has this friend who she was friending with this woman for a long time, and I didn't know up until recently that this woman was a self-professed curandera, which is like a Mexican, white witch. But like I said, a white witch is only a white witch until you make her mad, and then they stop being healers all of a sudden, and they start dabbling in these hexes and curses. Long story short, my mom had a disagreement over something with her, and it wasn't even something major. This woman had some petty misconception of something that was said, and she put a hex on my mom for it. So it wasn't like for anything huge. She didn't even get anything major out of it. It was just like out of spite, like, you made me mad. So
and it was based on a lie.
Blah blah blah.
It was based on a lie.
Yeah.
Somebody told her a lie. And like you said, they're only one slight or reproach, perceived slight or reproach, insult away from being a dark witch. And most of those people, they don't believe in Christ, and they're not. But I learned something about a few of the people that were in the chat. I was like, oh, okay, I'll know who to look out for, because they were kind of cheering her on, basically saying that she was going to curse me, and they were laughing about it. And I said, yeah, she's welcome to try like all the others, but it's going to be bad for them.
Well, I mean, it's just plain and simple. There's the morally right and morally wrong. I mean, people don't do things thinking that they're the evil one, but at the end of the day, based on what your actions are, you end up being the evil one. So you can try to justify it however you want, but just if you look at it and be like, okay, did what I do was wrong, then yeah, I'm the one in the wrong. That's how a normal person thinks.
Yes, Yellow Azul says people get on my ass for not hugging and trusting everyone. WTF? No. But yeah, I mean that's like I understand like if someone's apprehensive to like hug someone or even to just like to shake their hand, because I mean there's people out there who like they depend on that physical contact to, you know, it's like that's their way to take your energy or manipulate it. You know, you just don't know. And the same thing with like I know that some people are apprehensive about touching other people's jewelry, and I mean there's a reason for that. It's like that if it like that gold or silver, you know, they believe that it retains like certain energies that emanate from that person, and if you touch that, it can transfer to you, and you don't know what kind of stuff they're harboring, what kind of emotional anything, you know. So yeah, it's a serious thing. It's not like I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not like I'm not saying that witchcraft or whatever isn't real. It's extremely real, you know. But, which is why it's something that that it's a dangerous thing. Put it that way, and you can never trust like being in the presence of that stuff. It's just that there's a reason we're told to stay away from it. You know, it's for very good reason.
Yeah, it just takes one mistake to fall into the wrong side. I
Mhm.
mean, especially with something like that, when you're dealing so much with energy, you know, once you slowly become tainted, like that's always going to be there, and it's going to just more times you keep saying yes and yes and yes, the more stained you become.
Mhm.
So then eventually, it's, you know, and even if you don't intend on becoming a dark witch, that's just you're already stained by your sins.
Yeah. So
Moral of the story: just be normal. Be normal. Don't be weird. Be normal. It's not that hard. Look at me doing it right now with the tiny hands. I'm being perfectly normal right now, and you can too. Just stay away from weird esoteric curses and all that crap.
yeah. So we got another encounter to tell. Now, I don't know if you guys remember, and we were talking about that building earlier, the parking garage in particular, where our friend Malik, or my friend, had seen the three demonic entities that looked like they were real, although it was Halloween and people were dressing up in costumes. And there's a building above that parking garage. And I worked there with Scorpion a couple times, and then I worked it by myself, and he worked it by himself. And we had another one of our friends, Falcon, that had worked it too. Now, that guy told us a crazy story that we used on the Halloween show about seeing a water spirit. I want to say it was 2019. I'm pretty sure that was the 2019 Halloween episode. But here's what I'm going to tell you. Now, that building, he had a friend who worked at that building. And when I had gotten in touch with him not too long ago, probably, it's been a while now. It's probably been last December. It's a good ways. But I talked to him and I said, hey, and when he told me this story, I thought about it because, you know, I thought, why not just wrap them all in? Because Malik's story, you know, after Malik told me his story, I thought we'll just put them all together because it's from the same area. This is a creepy story. This is a scary story. And I think back all the time. Every time I go by that building, I think I was in that building. That could have happened to me. But thank goodness it didn't. But anyway, he had a friend whose name was Francis. Don't laugh. He's a foreigner. They don't know any better than name their kids Francis, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's not a goofy name. I don't
That's a
think.
goofy name. Shut up. So anyway, this guy named Francis, who, you know, he's not from here. He's a European guy. Well, no, he's not European, but he's lived in the Middle East, whatever. And so, or I'm sorry, he lived in Canada, but he was from Europe, whatever. So anyway, he lived here in Austin on a visa. Like we were talking about work visas earlier. and he had a very strong accent. I met him one time when I was doing patrol, and I had to go check on him. And I do remember very clearly him saying that building was haunted, and I was like, "Yep, sucks to be you because I've worked it, and well, got to go." But as when you're doing the patrol there, I was a lieutenant at that time at that company. You got to go to all these other buildings and unlock them and go in and out of them. So I didn't have no cakewalk. There were like I think 8 different buildings that I would on that route that I had to do on a nightly basis when I was doing that. And I said of those 8, the really tall, big ones, maybe 5 or 6 of them, I had something weird happen. Like I heard somebody's voice or just minor things, but it was there. I heard it. Or I saw something move in the corner of my eye, and I'm just like, this place, man. The LBJ building in particular, that building, just shit, dude. But the same thing that happened to not to me, but there were guards that it happened to over at the haunted tower, where people saw faces moving on the floor. That happened at the LBJ building. Like a big one though, a demonic-looking face. And one of the patrol captains was there to check on the guard because the guard she was flipping out. Something similar happened at the Greer building. We're talking about black cats. Somebody saw. I didn't, but somebody did. Because right across the street from the Capitol. Well, the Capitol, they say they have demonic black cats. And that always happens during the election. So, come November 4th, they'll probably have a sighting because it happens every year, and those state troopers see it. I mean, some of them talk about it, some of them don't. Typically, once they're retired, they'll be like, "Yeah, I saw some shit."
Yeah.
But I look at this like the situation. You take the good with the bad. Like he has to stay there in that building all night. I didn't, but then I have to go in and out of these other buildings. The good thing is I do my round and I get the hell out of there. But then sometimes I had to work standing post. I did both there, and you're just stuck. You're just stuck. You're in this building. If something happens in one of those buildings like the haunted tower, right? You could scream all day long, just like being out in the woods. Like if I was on the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, whatever floor, and I just screamed at the top of my lungs, nobody's going to hear you.
Yeah, I wonder, that's a good question about like what would be worse, being stuck in the woods with something or being stuck
inside of a building. I don't know, man. Or you got to be out, somewhere dealing with the homeless monsters that we got to deal with. I mean, you pick your poison. Nothing's perfect.
Yeah.
You're going to have to deal with crap no matter what. It's just the nature of the beast. But anyway, this guy, Francis, what happened to him, and we were going to talk tonight in depth about what happened at our house because we were going to wait until we were out of the house. So what we're going to do is probably next Sunday, we're going to talk in depth, all of us, about some of the weird stuff that went on at the house that we just moved out of because there was a lot of weird stuff. But for now, we're telling these stories. It's Halloween. All right. I say next Sunday. Today's Thursday, right? So this coming Sunday. We'll talk about that stuff. But right now, so Francis was up in the building, and he didn't tell me this, but he told Falcon this. Of course, Falcon's name was not really Falcon. His name was changed from Falcone, so they get a job because they're like, we're not hiring these people with these weird names, especially down here in the South. They're like, your name ends with a vowel. What the hell's wrong with you? What part of England are you from?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not. I'm from Italy. Uh-huh. You know that man with the pointy hat? And then we ain't giving you no job, boy. What are you talking about?
What part of communism you believe in?
So get out of here. So it was kind of that way. Or they'd have like a Slavic name. Like I remember looking at the roster and them calling one of my ancestors a squarehead. And I'm like, what the hell? That's what they called German or what do you call them? Scandinavians. No,
Scandinavians, yeah.
And so I was like squarehead, but it was Cossack. But that's actually, they have a lot of Northern European blood, and they don't really match the blood that the people that they're living around.
Mm-hmm.
Which would explain why they were going around spilling it, because they were violent people. They were just violent.
They ended up there by doing a lot of killing.
Yeah, they were Vikings. That's what they did. And so, anyway, Francis told this guy, our friend, a story, and he had just gotten in touch with me. Well, I thank Scorpion for this. Thank you if you're in the chat, Scorpion. Scorpion got in touch with him. I didn't. And then he says, hey, man, get in touch with him. He's got this story to tell. And so I did. And it was creepy. He said one night he was doing his rounds. And on that building, there's just like 5 floors. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 6 floors, like a penthouse, whatever. And then there's like this atrium. And in the little atrium thing, whatever, you can see the first. It's kind of like how the mall is. You know, you go to the mall and you can see the next level up. Well, it was just like that. Like if you're at Max's counter, right? And check out Max. Does a great job. He made this for me, Game of Thrones deal.
Jewel City.
Jewel City, Max Con, great guy. One of my good friends. And so you're there at his counter. If you look up, there's this that it's kind of, that's how the atrium is like that. But then there's that floor, then there's another floor. There's 2 floors, and then you're on that bottom floor. So the floors are like that. But then once you get to the next floor up, you have to take the elevator. You don't see the 1, 2, 3, the 4th and 5th floors. You don't see. You have to. I think there's 6 floors. You have to go up in the elevator. So he was up on the top floor of the elevator, and I've done these rounds. This really hits home to me when I heard this. So he was doing his rounds, and he hears like some movement in one of and all of all those floors at that time were abandoned. They were doing a complete restoration of it, and they were almost done. And so they sat there for about a month with no tenants on those 2 floors, the top 2 floors, and they had just finished doing the renovations. And so there were no workers anymore. So there was about a month where there was nothing. So they didn't have any tenants yet. And so he was walking around up there, and there was not supposed to be anybody there. And he sees this woman who's sitting in an office chair, just sitting there with her arms out, and she's looking out the window. And he's like, oh. And he has this French accent. He's like, ma'am, you can't be here. This is private property. What are you doing in this building? Blah, blah, blah. And she doesn't answer, doesn't respond. So he has his flashlight. He shines it on her. And when he shines it on her, everything kind of looks black. Like he can see the chair. Everything is just, you see like the way he described it was like the outline of it. But the inside of it was solid black. And it was like he was eating the light. And of course, he turns the flashlight off. She's there. You can see features, long hair, black hair. And he's like, I got to go and confront this person because that's your freaking job. And you guys know we've worked in some shady places. You got to do it, man. You can't just be like, oh, gee, Scoob, I'm scared. F this, like, no. I've been called more times than I can count, got to go answer the bell. I mean, if somebody says, I'm scared to go do my rounds, well, shit, I got to go do them because the client needs to see somebody on camera.
Yeah, I remember having to go into a dead person's room because we had a noise complaint about it.
Oh, at Skyline Terrace. Yeah. And so this guy says, he goes, ma'am, you can't be in here. And he goes, at this point, I started walking towards her. He's like, but I knew. He goes, there was not a real person. He's like, not a human being with flesh, As he's walking towards her, he hears this weird sort of like crickety creaking. I say crickety creak. That's my words. It didn't catch on. I can tell. It's not going to catch on. Let's just say it. It's like a creaking noise. Crickety creaking. Anyway, he heard crickety crackety. He hears this cracking, popping noise. We've heard, people talk about that with Bigfoot, Dogman, the rake, and you're going like, what is that? But if you're a student of the paranormal and you go back to like, some of these books that were written by guys, like, let's go back, like, what's his name? The Warrens, they've talked about it before in interviews. There was another guy that wrote a lot of books. Gosh, everybody talks about him. He did the weird, on tip of my tongue. If the audience would help me out here.
Brad Steiger?
Steiger was one of them. Yes, that was one of them. He's one of the 2 I'm thinking of. There's another guy who wrote a lot of books. Not Greer. John Keel. Keel. And of course, there were others like Edwards and I think Rosemary Ellen Guiley. These people, they talk about people hearing these noises, like the popping noises, like something's coming in and out of our reality, right? So if you're a student of the paranormal, it's like, well, this is weird. You know, there's weird stuff that happens. So when I first, I didn't hear this when I had my encounter, but other people say they hear popping noise with the Dogman. I said, well, I think it's your joints popping, right? And that would make sense if it's some sort of physical thing. But you also hear that popping noise with paranormal, you know, like ghosts. And so I had a friend who we called him Dutch. That was his nickname. And he said, dude, he was living in an apartment down by the drag, by the campus, right? Y'all remember that site we did? That little complex right there? And it was creepy. I know, Tony, you worked it for sure. And had the little pool in the middle, and they were doing renovations.
Oh, yeah.
And you had to go inside to use the bathroom there, and it was creepy as shit in there, dude.
You said it was by campus?
Yeah, it was right there on the campus. You did it too. And there was like a big bin out in the front. Yeah, and me and Nelly worked it together. And it was like,
I saw it. I remember it.
yeah, it's a little tiny complex, and you had to kind of park on a slope.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
everybody
yeah.
hated
Yeah, they were
it
doing the
because
renovations. I
It
remember.
was
Yeah.
creepy because even Scorpion never gets afraid.
He's a little rundown piece of crap.
He was like freaked out. He goes, I'm not staying in that apartment. I don't know what the hell's in there, but something was moving around. So I go there to use the restroom, and I thought I heard something behind me. I thought it was one of y'all, like standing behind. Like, why are these people standing behind? What the heck? And I turned around, there's nobody there. So, anyways, that place right there, there was a complex, or not a complex, but a house, like right next door to it, where it was like they made it into apartments. I can't remember where I was going with this. Anyways, the guy was living there, like he had done, like was living there or something, and he said that there was something that scared him or whatever. Was like, it was very similar to that, you know. And so he was telling me, he says, dude, and so Dutch told me, he says, dude, when I would see this specter, he didn't call it a specter, he called it a ghost. He said it sounded like this, and we were at this other guy, Adam's, Adam.
Mhm.
We were at Adam's house, and we were playing quarters. Right.
Mhm.
And he took a 3-liter soda bottle that we had gotten for the Crown and Coke. Right.
Mhm.
And funny because it was a couple days before Halloween. It was like the weekend. I don't remember what year it was. And we had just gotten off work. And so he took it and went boom, like that. And the soda cap would fly up and hit the ceiling. He said it sounded just like that. Like a popping, then boom, like the way it hit the ceiling.
Yeah.
Like boom, 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 boom. Boom,
Like
boom.
something just pops into
Yeah,
reality.
And it would do it 3 times. So sometimes when somebody would say, well, I saw this Dogman, the South Dakota one. We haven't told that one yet. But anyway, the guy it was right there, and he heard pop, pop, pop. But it was just standing there. It wasn't moving, and it wasn't doing anything. And I can't remember that guy's name, but we got to look it up. It's in the archives. But the guy saw this Dogman do that. They were hunting. I'm sorry, it was South Dakota. Yeah, it was South Dakota, right? And it was Black Hills, wasn't it? I believe so. I think the guy's name was Kerry. But anyway, we're going to tell that guy's story eventually. He's got several encounters with these things, but he hears that popping noise. And I told him, I said, that, when you hear that popping noise, that's not joints.
Mm-mm.
I don't believe that, because why did these other people, did they hear that pop, pop? We heard it here. And there was something going on here at that time. It could still be. Every now and then I see stuff, but I heard it in the house we were living in too, and I heard it down in South Austin. So I don't think that's just werewolf popping joints, whatever, the Dogman, whatever you want to call it, Bigfoot. But this guy, he said, he goes, I hear this pop, and like a crackling.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we
that
heard that
crushing
crackling
noise.
right here.
Yeah, we heard it. And so when he started telling me that, I said, oh shit, I've heard this before. And so I'm listening, and I'm like, yeah. And he goes, I hear like this, like a deep sigh, and then this like a screech, and then this bellowing laugh that sounds deep and guttural, following this high-pitched screech. And he said, dude, I froze in place. He goes, I didn't move. I was like ice. He's like, and then he goes, this thing stands up. He goes, adjust its dress. It was wearing like a cloak or a dress. He couldn't tell. And then kind of laid, sloped down, like he slumped down. The way he described it is a little different, but that's my words. In the chair. He's like, and he goes, and then I felt compelled to walk toward it. Like my legs were not following. My will was not my own. I was being forced to walk towards this being like a tractor beam. Well, that's once again my words. I said that. I said, you've heard of a tractor beam? And he kind of didn't know what I was talking about. And then I said, look, something that draws you in, like, spaceships they talk about. He goes, oh, yeah. Okay, so anyway, he's immigrant, guys. And so anyway, he was walking towards it. And he says, and then he goes, as I get right up on it, I'm like right behind it. And this part right here really freaks me out. Okay, so he's standing behind this thing. He goes, and I could hear boom, 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 boom. And I couldn't tell if it was my heart beating really fast or if that was this heart beating from this thing. He says, but I look in the window. He's like, and I see and once again, my words, he saw the visage of it, he saw the image of it. He says, this thing looked like stringy haired old hag crone thing with little nodules for horns on its head. And it was like just staring at him with this wicked grin on its face with these little sharp, like canine looking teeth. And he said it was looking at him, just staring at him. He goes, and the eyes were just black. And he goes, and I could see it in the window. Because in that building, there's another building right there that gives the light. And so the room was dark. It was just a dark room. He goes, and I'm up there, and there's nobody else up here. And he goes, and I realize now this is not a human being. I don't know what the F this is, but this thing is staring at me through the window. He goes, and then he goes, the chair began to turn kind of slowly. He goes, and once it got about, and this, oh God, this story is freaking me out, dude. Once this witch hag looking thing, once it got about halfway, he goes, I started walking backwards, and then I just turned and ran. And then I made a joke, and I kind of broke up the horror of it. And I said, dude, you didn't stop and tell her about Geico insurance? He goes, Geico? What? And I said, you dummy, you don't know what I'm talking about. You're not from America. I'm joking. I didn't tell him that. No, I was like, you should have told her, hey, you can save hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. Why didn't you do that? And he goes, Geico? And then he goes, oh, the commercial, yes. And he laughed. So we had a laugh, and he goes, oh, okay. He goes, that's good, the laugh. And I said, yes, because your story just scared the shit out of me. And I'm sitting out there in the vehicle, and I'm going like, looking around like, what the heck? And then we're hearing that weird noise, and I'm like, I don't want to hear some shit right now,
Yeah.
But it was creepy, dude. I mean, it was a creepy story. And it had me on the edge of my seat. And I told him, I said, I'm going to tell that story on my Halloween show. He goes, you can do whatever you want. I don't listen to your stupid shit channel. And I said, well, F you, whatever. Nice. We exchanged pleasantries. And he said, hey, Falcon says you and Scorpio are great guys. I said, he's half right. I am. And then, but I told him, I said, yeah, I mean, we knew him for years. And that story he told us about that thing, the wet being that was the water spirit that screamed at him. I'm telling you, that's another one, dude. That one just, make the hair on your ass stand up, dude. I'm telling you. And so he told me this story, and I was like going inside, like looking around, like I'm over there, like brushing my teeth. What was that? Who's there? Who's there? You better get away from me. I know karate. I'm gonna kick you. I'm gonna kick you. You don't know me. You don't know what I'll do. Well, you're gonna fight a ghost, but you're in that mode, right?
Yeah.
You open the door. You're like, oh,
Judo chop.
Judo chop with the Saint Benedict on your eye. Don't mess with me. I'll kill you till you die. Anyway, I was really freaked out, and I was not gonna go sit in my study. And I had told my wife, I was like, we're gonna study for a couple of hours. Don't bother me. I got a lot of work to do. I ran into the bedroom, and she's like on the phone in there, And she's like, oh, honey, what are you doing? I said, nothing. Just want to be next to you. So hugging her. She's like, I'm on the phone. And she's like, so anyways, she's like, I don't know. My husband keeps like trying to hug me, and he's scared or something. She knows. Like, she knows. She's like, he was listening to someone's story, and he got scared. I told her, I was like, honey, you don't got to talk about it like that. I mean, I don't get scared. I get concerned for the people.
Mm-hmm.
I just
Okay, I'm scared. I'm scared for them, not for.
I'm scared for
They
them.
don't do anything to me. That thing comes by my house, I'll kill it.
I kill it.
I live vicariously through them and their fear.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I'm an empath.
don't come at me when I'm cleaning my room.
I'm scared because they're scared. I
I'm
feel what they
scared for
feel.
them because they get to deal with this horrible stuff. Why are you challenging me, lady? No, folks, I'm going to be completely honest. It scared the shit out of me. Okay. That was one, there's a few of these stories that have scared the absolute F out of me, dude. Do you remember the one story we had? These are in the archives, folks. You're going to go back and listen to them. You remember that guy? He was in France, another French dude, and he was in that chateau. You remember when that thing crawled out of the mirror?
Yeah.
Oh my God. When he was telling me that story, well, I was reading the email and I was like, and then I felt something rub against my leg and I was like, and I heard, yeah. And I look and baby's running. I'm like, oh! I'm like, baby, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. She's going to go tell Nellie. I'm like, damn. She runs right in the room and Nellie's like, she comes out all bleary eyed. Why is baby crying? What did you do to baby? I'm like, I don't know. She came in and she was upset. She
It's the house.
Well, baby's practically a cryptid herself.
I don't have any milk bones for her. I don't know why she was crying. She's weird. She tried to bite me. What? I said, yeah. That dog's
crazy.
Man. That dog's got problems. Got issues, man. I took her outside yesterday. She tried to attack a lady. What? I said, yeah. Crawled up straight up for her throat. She bent down to pick up her other dog's poo. Baby's a menace. You might want to get her checked out. I don't know. I just made up some lie.
National Wildlife came by.
Blame it on the dog. Now I actually kicked her on accident. It was like an instinct because I'm reading this creepy story about this guy's thing coming out of the mirror, and there's nobody in there but me, and I just feel something across my leg. It's like 4 a.m. Nobody's awake, and I was freaked me out.
Mm-hmm.
I have a right to be scared sometimes, folks. Okay. I'm not always a big tough guy. I got feelings too. Don't make fun of me. It's fine. But when the devil comes for you, don't say I didn't warn you. Okay, that's right. But yeah, there are times when, and then there have been people who've told me stories. I'll tell you one. Since it's Halloween, I'll tell you one of the creepy ones. This was not. It was an innocuous. It wasn't. None of them are innocuous, but this one wasn't like some horror-filled tale. It was just a Bigfoot encounter, and it's not like I'm trivializing it, but it was a Bigfoot encounter from Washington. And so this lady was telling me, she said, we were out camping, and she's like, we heard the wood knocks, and we saw something was thrown at them, and so there was something going on. But then I hear, like, in the phone, and I thought somebody was on the phone with her, like, whispering to her, and I was like, Her name was Paula. And I said, Paula, hold on, I'm going to stop you for a second. I said, what is that sound? What is that? There's somebody talking. Sounds like a male's voice. She goes, well, no, I'm here alone. She's 62 years old. She's like, I live by myself. And my daughter used to live with me, but she got married. And I'm like, okay. So I keep listening or whatever. And then I hear like louder. And I said, well, this is bizarre. Like, I can't even know what in the hell is this? Like, I can't. And so I'm sitting there and like, so I told her, I said, hey, can you hold on? I'm going to make a phone call. And that was when we were still with Armando, but Armando was not working on the show anymore, but he was still, because this was his witness. Mm-hmm. So I called him up and I said, hey, get on three-way with me. Listen to this. And so we were listening to this and it was really creepy. I don't even like thinking about it because it just freaked me out because I had a bad dream after it happened. I don't like talking about stuff when you dream or whatever. But and y'all probably heard this already. But anyway, she for the audience, like she continued to talk, and then Armando's like, okay, he's like, Paul, I'm gonna stop you right there. What is that noise? And she goes, I don't know what y'all are hearing. Because it sounds like a man's voice, and it was becoming more clear, right? And she goes, well, I don't know. And then we heard, like, quickly someone say, this is John. Like, it sounded like this, but it didn't finish the end. It was like, this is John, like that. And I was like, was there a guy named John or something? And she goes, oh my gosh. She's like, I had my husband, my late husband, his name was John. And she's like, he died 4 years ago of a massive stroke. And they rushed him to the hospital. He died on the way. But she said that it was still traumatic for her, and that he was one of the people that was in that story she was telling. It was her daughter, her best friend, her husband, and that had the Bigfoot encounter. They didn't. The thing is, though, it ended with her. They didn't see anything. They just had things thrown at them, and they heard screaming. So a bit of a letdown with that one. But the creepy thing was that voice, and this has happened more than once. I've heard this before. Not before that, but I mean after I'd heard it a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, my husband's name was John. And she goes, you're freaking me out. I said, we're not trying to.
Yeah.
I was just like, but we heard a guy. And then when we said, okay, good night, we heard good night, like that, like a whisper. And she didn't hear it at all. It was never. So we talked about it a couple times, man. And we were just like, and it was funny because I had a conversation with him probably 2-3 weeks before he got the vid and passed away. And we actually, that came up, I was like, dude, remember when we were talking to that lady? And it was just like, I mean, she couldn't hear it. But that's creepy. It was just, it's just one of those things where, I don't know. So somebody says, oh, reminds me of the voice talking together in the funeral home at night by myself. Gets quite, whoa, that's creepy. Huh. So I guess that's it. I mean, are we going to pack it in?
Want to do some giveaways?
Yeah, we could do the giveaways. I mean, how about this? I have a short Dogman story we can tell.
Yeah, let's get into it.
But I mean, nobody gave us any donations, man. They just left us hanging. Y'all are pieces of shit, man. Y'all suck ass. You know how bad we need it? You know how bad we need this? I need more of these to protect me, folks. I risk my life for you.
This next story is a PRT premium story. You have to be a gold member and to purchase a PRT premium membership.
We now have gold members.
Yeah, we have gold, and and then we're working on platinum and rhodium level subscriptions members, because rhodium's more valuable.
It
right?
is.
Yeah,
but platinum's not as valuable as gold now.
Okay, so then
more
switch gold and platinum, all right? And whether or not you're a gold member or a platinum member is going to change depending on which is more valuable that day, if gold is or as platinum is. Okay,
well, folks, gold is at $2,800 an ounce now. Let me make sure of that. I told everybody, didn't I tell you to invest in gold? I did. Some guy said you can't eat gold. I said, okay, well then go invest in milk.
Well, actually, you can.
All the gold that I could eat.
Must have been taken to Rome.
I went back down. Damn, it was at $27.99 at one point today or yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I have the picture you took of it.
Mm-hmm. So for an ounce of gold, it's approaching 28. So I told everybody to go invest, and they were just like, nah, I'm not going to do that. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go invest in high fructose corn syrup. I'm like, oh, you might make some money. A lot of people eat that. No, I mean, I'm going to go buy a bunch of candy and chocolate and stuff and sodas.
I've been making a lot of investments into diabetes.
Paul Pachura says, I like silver. Silver is gone. I think silver is at 30. Don't quote me. 37.
Yeah, I like wearing silver.
I see silver.
Is gold antimicrobial like silver is?
Yep.
Which one is more potent?
$32.90, folks. $32.90, which means over spot you could probably get $40 for it an ounce on eBay. That over spot is such a bunch of bullshit, man. It's like it's worth what people pay for it.
Yeah.
Whatever, man. 2-for-1 lap dances. Oh, now you're talking. You remember that time you was drunk at the party? We was low dancing, gave you all this body. My name is Bertha, but you can call me Booger. Is that who you're talking about? I remember Booger. She was the Booger queen, folks. No, you know what? Today is the 31st. Everybody's broke. Like you're not gonna get like there are people talking about
Halloween
get donations for Halloween. I'm not gonna mention any names, but Tony. But I was like, you know, we're not going to make anything today because everybody's broke as shit. And
Well, everybody bought candy to give out
yeah,
and
well,
costumes.
that's not why. People are broke as hell because they're broke as hell because of the people that are doing whatever they're doing. But you got to understand that we totally get it.
You mean the rich paying their fair share didn't magically translate to money in our pocket?
Exactly. So it's the 31st. A lot of people don't get paid until after the 1st, and that's just how it is. It's 11/11. Yes, it is. It's 11/11. Thank you for showing that, Gary. Now it's 11/12. But hey.
Too little, too late.
Nelly,
Way
you
to
were
go.
not on the ball. You didn't show us quick enough. Yeah, silver is at 32. Yeah, PG, it was 37 the other day, so it's going up and down. And crypto has just skyrocketed. It went through the roof. Today is one of my daughter's birthdays. Well, happy birthday to her, Jackie Hall. No, we get it. People are broke. You don't have money, whatever. And that's why we're not putting anything behind the paywall. But we are going to do something for the Patreon members because they are keeping the show going. Patreon is literally keeping the show going because we don't put a lot of ads and we don't beg for donations like these liars say we do. That's some bullshit. We're just playing off of that. But if you join the Patreon, and so people are asking for a little bit more. Now, we do give you the swag bag, and then we'll give you another one in 6 months after you get your first one.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have a problem with that. But what we want to do is something for the Patreon members, and we're just going to do like a shoot the shit, shoot the breeze, you know, and talk. We're going to have a Q&A. So if you want to tune in as a Patreon member, it's not going to be anything that that's going to be earth shattering, unless, you consider, going deeper into the subjects. That's kind of what we're going to do. So it is going to be worth it to join the Patreon, but we're not going to put anything behind the paywall. The stories, we're not going to tell a story on there you won't hear somewhere else, but you will have access to us to be able to talk. Because one of the things people like about being able to communicate with us, thank you for that, Jason Broussard and Trevor Law, is that when you talk to me or Anthony, whatever, one-on-one, not so much Tony, he sucks, but if you talk to us, you might get some information that you wouldn't normally get. So if you're in green, we're going to do a giveaway. We're going to give away multiple things. So I actually gave away 2 things on the last show, and people didn't send me their emails.
Oh, shoot.
We got the 3 from the show before, and so we're going to do 6 of them tonight.
Okay.
6 of them, and we're going to give away 2 hoodies. And then we're going to give away, but we're not going to tell you who's getting the hoodie. If you really want a hoodie, put on there, I want a hoodie, right? If you want one of these shirts, then tell us, and then we'll do it. But otherwise, it's going to be just luck of the draw, and we can't say, hey, which ones we're going to give you because that's a lot of work to try to remember all that. So we're going to send the email. There it is, right? There's one of them. And we got the other one, right? So we're going to give those away. So let's get started in green. Who has not won a giveaway or has given anything? Let's start with that. And if nobody else, if everybody's gotten one, then we just
start over.
Yeah. But say it now. The first people to say it. If you haven't, now don't trick us because we'll know when we go up there to get it. And we're going to be very angry with you.
We know where you live.
So whoever has not won, say it now. Say, Steampunk says, I want a hoodie. Well, have you won anything yet?
Okay, Lawrence Morgan says he hasn't won.
Lawrence Morgan says, I have not. Okay. So, Lawrence, you'll be the first one. You win. Lawrence Morgan.
Yeah.
Send me information. Josh Turner.
Out tuition is next.
PRTpodcast.com. Out tuition says, Deafin hoodie. I've never won. You win. That's 2. Caitlin Wolves says, I haven't. You got to do it quick here. Caitlin Wolves, you win. It's up to you guys to send us the emails.
No BS for me, please.
All right.
Yeah, the next one.
No BS for me, please. Says, I haven't won. You remember, you win too. Is that 4?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you're in green, that means you're a member.
Nathan Jimenez.
We got 2 more.
He says, I have not one. Just signed up last week. Nathan Jimenez.
Where's he at?
He's
Nathan Jimenez. I have not one. Just signed up last week. You win. How about that?
That's 5.
Make it quicker. We got a Dogman story to get to. Dorothy, you want another mug? We are out of stock with those, but I'll get you something. You know, you can come up here anytime.
What is the email you
The
want?
email is post it up there. If Maddie, if you're in the chat, or Anthony, when y'all put it up there.
Yeah.
Jackie Hall, if I owe you a book and we're missing in action, we'll get it to you. Send me the email. Okay? And I'll do you one better. I'll throw you a shirt too, just because you had to when I went missing in action. Sorry about that.
We got one more, guys. Who hasn't won?
Sugar Seas, I haven't won
There
yet.
you go.
Sugar Seas, looks like you just won. Is
Just
that
made
6? Is that 6 people?
Yeah. Let's see.
Send your shirt size and your email or your mailing address. And if you're in Canada, unfortunately I can't.
Lawrence.
But the good thing is, if you're across the pond in the UK, I can have Paul Sinclair send you a book, and we'll do you one better on that too. If you are from Canada, I'll send you $50 on the PayPal. How about that? To order yourself something, or do whatever you want with it. We'll send it to you for ordering it on the. How much is a hoodie in the store?
Like $30.
Okay, so we'll send you $40 to cover it. So we'll send you $40 if you're from overseas. So, and if you didn't win, we're going to do another giveaway on Sunday. We're going to do 3 more. So and after Sunday, so come early next week, we'll be mailing off, because I got to go to Postal Annex anyway to get my mail. So my Gmail, if you want to get in touch with me, Vasquez, just
So what you're gonna send tuition is your shirt size, your mailing address, and kind of just like your information about whether you want like a hoodie or a shirt.
Mm-hmm. And we don't have a whole lot of the different sizes of hoodies. Unfortunately, I think we have like a lot of 2 or 3Xs, don't we?
I think the bigger sizes we
have more than 2. That's why we're limiting with that. But we're gonna do another order, and like I said, everything got jacked up, so we're gonna have to talk to Seven Clay, and we're gonna make a new store, and we're gonna have multiple partners that are gonna be in that catalog, to where you can go there and order their stuff, our stuff, whoever. Okay.
We do have plenty of these really nice camo ones though, so expect to win one of those.
I just got a lot of work to do. I'm just constantly working. But I'm a lazy ass, according to these, these goofy hillbillies from whatever. But really, I need to contact Wolf. Yeah. Yep. Good night. And Gwen says good night, everyone. Okay, so I guess we're not going to tell the story. Everybody's bailing. So you know what? We'll do it on Sunday.
Okay.
So we'll tell that story. And then I hope everybody enjoyed the Halloween episode.
Thank you, Jason, for coming on, joining us.
Thank you, Jason Bland, for coming on. It was great. New movie about werewolves? Oh, cool. David Calvin says, pay money, then they respond to you. What does that mean, dude? What does that mean?
You haven't been watching for very long.
Why don't you give us money then, and we'll respond to you even more? How about that? Go ahead and kick him out, dude, and don't come back. How about that?
Yeah.
You don't need your bullshit attitude. Think it's a bunch of crap.
Oh no, they didn't respond to me. One person out of like 500 who were watching. Hey, here's an idea, David. Try and place a curse on us, like the rest of y'all. See if it works out.
Yeah.
Maybe then, maybe you can whip up a curse that makes us respond to you without getting paid for it. How about that?
Yeah. Because it's funny because I just responded to a bunch of people who didn't pay me anything. All they did was become members. So yes, Rocky, curses. Yep. What an idiot. Yeah, he's over there bad, probably. Whatever. Go listen to, I hear that there's a show that from a guy from somewhere in the Appalachians.
From the mud, like the orcs.
I didn't want to say the bastard's name because I wouldn't give him any. He does a show, man, and he's got integrity. He's got integrity, and a bunch of idiots that go hang out with him. He'll do you right.
Oh, he owns Integrity Farms
If you pay
from
his
South
taxes.
Park.
All right, man. So we're out of here. Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad that I could do this because I know I feel like crap. And my wife was like, "Well, you're going to feel worse tomorrow," and I'm like, "Let you say these things. Don't say such things to me." I know. I probably will.
Jackie, the email is scrolling at the bottom of the screen. It's just scrolling like a little banner right there over and over and over.
Holly Berry. Holly, I had a question for you. You'd posted something, if that's you. I think you posted something on Facebook. And it was about a vehicle. And because my cousin got one. I think it was the Traverse, but you had gotten the Equinox. I want to know how you liked it. I think that's you. Because we got that Explorer and it's already like something wrong with it. So I'm like, that's why you should listen to your mechanic.
Shouldn't be making those noises
Mm-hmm.
that soon.
She says, I love it. So it's the Equinox, right? Now, there's so many different SUVs from Chevy. There's a Suburban, there's a Tahoe, an Equinox, a Traverse, a Trax, a Blazer. I think there's another one too.
The Blazer and the Trailblazer are also they're two different things.
Like 7
for some
different
reason.
ones, man.
Yeah.
Why do you need that many damn SUVs? How's the gas mileage? Message me, Holly, about that too. I think you got my
Sell it to me, Holly.
send it to me on Messenger, email me, or whatever. Doesn't matter. That's awesome, Cameron. It's like you're helping me get out of my anxiety and depression. Good night. I can tell you this. I was having a conversation with a colleague, and she's an author. She's kind of in a dark place. I'm not going to say her name. It's not right to do that. But she's low self-esteem, and I told her, I said, you have nothing to be having low self-esteem for. Because the first thing you got to do, and not to be not one of these people who's narcissistic, and then they don't have a problem being that way. But a lot of people that are good people, they don't understand or know their self-worth. And this society puts that on you. They market to you that self-worth comes from purchases and bullshit. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? I would do this show even if we got nothing for it. Because this to me is cathartic, not just for me, but for the audience and to the people who send me their encounters. And so there's times when I have to sit there and talk to people and they have really gone through the ringer with this shit. And nobody wants to believe them, and they find their home with people who are like, hey, I believe you. This really happens. And so what you got to do, and I said, it starts with yourself. And this friend of mine, she says, well, what should I do? I said, you should get up every day and walk into the bathroom or wherever your mirror is at in the living, in your bedroom, whatever. And tell yourself that I'm worth something. Mm-hmm. And you're here for a reason. And she has gifts that God gave her, but she was told that they were bad, evil.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. Two shadows. You rock too. Thank you.
Yeah, I heard some good advice the other day that like you have to learn to have endless patience with yourself first and foremost, and then like the more I thought about that, the more I just kind of like mentally expanded on it and created kind of like a mental exercise where like if you take yourself, you take your own perception of yourself and you change it to where like you see you look at yourself as like a helpless, like innocent but ignorant little child, right? And it's your job to protect that child and to protect that child's interest. But the child is you, but it's like you taking care of yourself. And um, if there's something that you would not allow that child to do because it's bad for them, then you know you don't do that because that child is you. It's like it's you taking care of yourself, and you view yourself kind of as a helpless innocent little kid, because if you think about it, in I'm like that's like what we are to God, to Christ. It's like we're these little tiny powerless ignorant beings who, I mean, like, yeah, we know better with some stuff, but a lot of when it comes to life, we're just extremely ignorant on a lot of things. And in the context of all the knowledge in the universe, we know absolutely nothing. So we're just kind of like on this, like Lovecraft says, on these floating on these black seas of infinity, and we have no idea about anything really. So yeah, just be patient with yourself, and don't try to get out of like kicking yourself so much. You know, there's a difference between self-criticism and self-reflection and dwelling on that to the point where you start this lose patience with yourself and think, I'll never be better, I'll never achieve this, I'm always just gonna be this and that. Like one of the things that people say that I feel psychologically limits them is when they say, I'm the type of person that, and then fill in the blank. You got to stop doing that.
Yeah.
Because you're psychologically putting yourself
binding yourself
into a box, and words do have power, especially the ones that you speak about yourself. So, you know, don't define yourself as like, I'm the type of person that I'm the type of person that. You can be the type of person that you envision yourself as being, but it starts with being patient with yourself. And I think it helps, at least for me, it in my opinion, it would help if you viewed yourself as a little innocent child, and you take care of that child in the way that you would take care of any child, and you're taking care of you, you know.
Now, me personally, I'm the type of person that says I'm the type of person.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm the type of person that says I'm the type of person that say it often.
I'm the type of person that says you shouldn't say I'm the type of person.
Well, I'm quite confident, but I'm also
Dave,
humble, which is very important.
Okay, here's what happened on your deal. We sent your package out. I remember this, and it got sent back. So here, Dave, what you're going to have to do is resend us your correct address, right? And if nothing else, if all else fails, we'll just send you $40. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He says, I'll take a hoodie. Absolutely. Make sure you give me the size. And if we have the size here today, I'll send it to you, and I'll send you an autographed book. But be very specific, folks. If like the other person, who was the other person that said she didn't get her stuff? She said I went missing in action or whatever. Jackie Hall.
Yeah.
So say, hey, this is Jackie Hall, dumb shit. What are you doing? Send me my stuff. You Frito Bandito looking bastard. Why would you talk about me like that, Jackie? And this skit, you're mean. You're horrible.
You damn Chum Lee and
Chum Lee. I'm not even. Hey.
Speedy Gonzalez.
Wait, I'm not looking like Chum Lee.
And your Speedy Gonzalez looking nephews.
I can see that. Yeah, definitely. Whatever bad you want to say about them, I agree.
I'm Beetlejuice.
Any update on the Hernandez Ranch? Not enough for like a big show. But yes, we do have a small update. And Pablo, if you email me that too, or if you're on a lot of people are sending messages and friend requests to that. And I know why, because there's like 5,000 people on that Paranormal Roundtable group thing, whatever. Not the group on Facebook. That's a big group. It's like 9,000 something. But if you send us, you know, on that, there's like this one, whatever. I don't check that very often because it's so janky to get into. But I do. I check it. I saw all these people send me messages. Go to my personal Facebook and send it to me. It's me and Nelly. And she's in the shot with me, unfortunately. She's trying to steal my thunder like always, but whatever. I'm gonna deal with it. Us beautiful people have to deal with people like these two and Nelly, who psychic vampirism that takes from you, and your beauty.
I consider myself one of the beautiful
Your beauty
people.
gets taken away from you.
I don't know if you got the memo.
And you
but
end up with the bags under your eyes
I've
because
been one of the beautiful people for a long time now.
Yeah, that's a complete.
Yeah, I think you need to check your memos
that's a falsehood, sir.
from the Beautiful People
You're
Club.
talking out of your ass right now.
Because everyone else in the club got it except you, apparently.
Yeah, well, you're wrong.
I think you're a bit oblivious.
I'm humble enough to know I'm better than both
I'm
of
the
you.
type of person that yes, exactly. We're the type of people who, when people talk about how type of people we are. Yes, it is. And Dire Wolf, thank you for noticing. You're the first person that noticed. Andres, send me an email and I will give you something too. You win. You win too. All right. We're gonna give away a bunch of shit. It's a bunch of we're gonna give away a bunch of it. We're gonna go. I want to get like 20 things to mail off when I go to the place. The
Also,
space.
Pick
You ever
up
seen
what-
that show Solar Opposites?
Well,
God,
I've seen
it's funny, man.
sorts of it. Or like,
Planet Schlorp was the utopia, and then the asteroid, and then we got shot off into the space. It's so funny, dude. You got to check it out. It's a funny show. But anyway, anything else anybody want to say or talk about? Whatever, throw it in there. And then if not, we're gonna go, and we'll be back on Sunday. And even if I'm really sick and I got explosive diarrhea, I will have a bucket behind me, like when on South Park when they
Or
were
we can just
playing
cut
World of
we can just
Warcraft.
cut a hole in your chair
cut a hole in
and
the
put
chair.
the
I'm
bucket
like,
underneath.
yeah, that Dogman was awful. And then the ghost.
Like when the guest is talking, you just like you don't even say it, you just start doing it, and you
You
just
like
eat
hold on,
face.
sister. I gotta take a shit.
No, go on. Oh, I'm listening.
I'm listening.
I'm listening.
Whatever bullshit just.
Oh God.
It's it. So what we could do, I mean, like we could, put the bucket back there, like whenever they were playing World of Warcraft on South Park, and they were just getting all fat and full of pimples because they weren't showering, and then they just pooped into the bucket.
Or we could just we can buy you like some Depends, just put you in a diaper.
They called you
That'll work
Tony,
too.
Wolf and Two Tonys. Sure, Andres says, can I attach a video? People send us videos all the time. Now, here's my policy on that. We don't typically repost videos or pictures. It just leads to a lot of bullshit. I mean, just don't do it. It's too much. Jose Luis Mendez says one Dogman story. We'll save it for Sunday. There's only 377 people in here.
Yeah, we want to tell it when more people have the chance to hear it.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. When we could get more money.
Yeah.
When people pay us. That's when we do it. Little snarky bastard. Real cute. I guess he's going to curse me too. We'll stop being a dumb shit. And that's it. All right, folks. I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to run. Thank you for tuning in. It's Halloween Paranormal Roundtable, and this is 2024.
Mhm.
Right? And sorry for cursing and just being, I'm in a cantankerous because I'm not feeling good, but I need to stop that. I do need prayers because I am getting ill, and I'm going to try and make it in on Sunday. No guarantees, but I think probably 80% chance I'll be in. I was slated to work out today, and I could not.
Of course.
Yeah. And I love to hit the weights. I love to
What
work
the
out.
heck is up with
Finally
this?
able to do my elbow enough to where I can lift and get these arms. And then I got sick.
Why did this sickness wait for you to like the one day?
Yeah.
That's weird.
So I woke up with achy. I told my wife, I said, I got body aches, man. What in the hell is going on? And she's like, you got what we got. Like, great. But I dodged it.
Yeah, I'm feeling all shriveled up. I need to get back in there. Feel
All
gross.
right. And also, congratulations to the Dodgers. I don't like you, but I dislike the Yankees more.
Yeah.
And I love nothing more than to see them suffer. right? I hate them. You 41 World Series. Get the F out of here, dude. 20 something champions, like Alabama, dude. I mean, go F yourself. I'm so sick of these. Who made this world where the same teams win all the time?
Yeah.
Sick of it, dude. It's a nauseating thing. Oh, sorry. So yeah, we're just tired of it, man. I hope the Yankees never win another game. I hope they go 0-1,000. I just don't. I'm just not into. I like the Red Sox too, though. So. All right, man. Thank you for that compliment, Pablo. We'll see you guys. Let's play it out. Good night. Oh, great.